And I feel like we're back to Heaven's Ward because, geez, the way that the patch quests ended.
Oh yeah, we took you through peak Shadowbringers, my friend.
No kidding.
A lot of peak Shadowbringers. Hello everyone, welcome to the Big Cat Aethercast. I am Rei.
I am Leo.
And today's episode is patches 5.1 to 5.3, both the Sorrow of Werlyt trials and the Eden raids.
And cleaning up some bits of Shadowbringers as well, because there's some other bits that we need to go over before we get into the main into the main patch quest. But first, how are you doing?
Well, as of recording this, patch 7.2, Seekers of Eternity has come out, and whoo boy, that was a patch.
I can imagine. Where can people go watch this content if they've missed it?
Well, it should already be uploaded by the time I have posted this, so they will see 2 episodes for the MSQ on Monday and Wednesday, and Friday and Saturday they will see the Arcadian raids, and I cut out a lot of bullshit for the third Arcadian raid this wing. So I can't really say a lot about it without spoiling it for you.
So I guess I'll just have to watch the videos, because we're obviously recording this before those have gone up, but after it will be released afterwards.
Yes, I don't want to spoil it for you, but this was a very big step up from the last patch.
Okay.
Because 7.1 is a little mid. It felt like they were adding things in that they forgot to do in 7.0. Mainly to do with Kona. And they left us on a fucking cliffhanger.
Well, that's because they're gonna release it all off at 7.3. So I guess that's one of the things that I have not experienced with Final Fantasy yet, is the tension between patches.
Yes, you have not experienced that yet, but don't worry, by the end of the year, I'm pretty sure we'll have you current.
Which means that I will be at a neutral point, because that's kind of how I feel right now after 5.3.
You feel neutral even after that fucking high?
Well, no, it was still a high, but what I mean is that I have not seen I have not seen the shoe drop of where we're going to go into walking into Endwalker.
All right.
I guess it's the same issue that I had with the end of Heaven's Ward, in that it ended so perfectly, I don't know where we're going next. And that is, I guess, what my issue with the more perfect Final Fantasies are.
Yeah.
Or with the more perfect expansions, because compared to Stormblood, which ended imperfectly, but leaves an opening to where it's like, okay, I understand where we're going to go next.
Yes.
And we had the new mystery come up of, hey, all the fucking
Scions
are dropping like flies. The hell is going on here? And so that is the trade-off of, you know what's coming, but then you can speculate on that versus, where are we going next?
Yeah, because at the end of all this, spoilers, all of the Paragon Ascians are dealt with and taken care of.
Right. But we do have some other updates to do, and we have expansions. But first, let's catch up with some capstones.
Yeah, specifically the role quest capstones, because by the end of 5.3, they've all been capped.
Right, and so we've already discussed each of the job quests related to the 4 virtues, which are the 4
Warriors of Light
who were left behind after the end with the situation of the Flood of Light.
Yes, and then after completing those, we get introduced to the character Ciela, who is the barmaid,
who had shown up in the previous memories of Ardbert's adventuring party, but not really mentioned as a fellow warrior of light, despite showing up.
Well, at first we're not sure it's Silva. She goes by Ciela at first, but she goes on and travels throughout, and we basically kind of put the pieces together that she is Ciela, and she shows us a memory of her. I'm messing her up. Silva. Her real name is Silva. I'm just going to call her Silva from now on.
Yes. her alias convinces us to walk the road that Ardbert and his companions did, going down memory lane one more time, explaining through her alter ego the eyes of which she watched them grow and become stronger, leading to the point where she basically was the original one to betray them.
She was the Shadow Keeper, the arch villain throughout Ardbert's adventure, basically. The one causing all the problems for everyone, in order to create heroes that would, with the help of the Ascians, cause another rejoining.
Now, why was she helping the Ascians out, though?
Turns out she's another character from the 13th.
Which is Unal Kalhai came from, and is a world that basically completely fell to darkness.
It is now the Void, where all the Void Sent are.
Yes. So, in her attempt to try and save her world, she teamed up with
the Ascians.
Ascians. I thought it was Elidibus.
No. At that point, it was Metron and Logreth.
Oh, Metron and Logreth. And basically became their vassal to go ahead and trigger the Flood of Light originally. However, she got put to rest by Ardbert and the others, despite their wishes that they didn't have to.
Basically, they still showed her mercy even after she basically betrayed them.
Right.
And they ended up going after the main Ascians, killing... Well, we'll get to that in Eden.
Right.
But dealing with them, but it caused the Flood of Light. You know the story from there.
Right. Now, Silva still unfortunately survived, and as a result of wibbly wobbly timey wimey, she actually is functionally immortal.
She's basically an Ascian in all but name, so she's immortal.
So meaning she is stuck with this bar waitress gig, being, up until us, the only ones who basically knew the true story of whatever happened to everyone else.
And the only one who could basically... Because basically once Thancred, Ishtola, and the rest of the crew started showing up in the first, Vothri had exhumed the old Warrior of Light's bodies and turned them into the Cardinal Virtues.
Right. However, after all that, Sylv also realized that we're probably one of the few people who could potentially kill her.
Yes.
And wanting a release of this world for her sins, basically tried provoking us into killing her, to which we say, bitch, you crazy.
Bitch, we're basically Ardbert. You think we're going to do the same thing that... We're Ardbert. We're going to do the exact same thing he did and spare your ass.
I do think we tell her after this at some point, but that's...
Yeah.
That's messing with the timeline mildly.
Mildly.
Point is that we do spare her, and we basically say, no, you're going to live with this.
You're going to live with this, and you're going to atone.
By making sure to tell everyone what actually happened.
Yes, which results in the next patch quest, where she basically says, hey, you got all these crystals from the Warriors of Light. Can I have them for safekeeping? And we tell her that basically Ardbert's crystal is with Seto, and she agrees, like, yeah, he deserves to hold that crystal.
But then the rest, she takes custody of.
Which brings in all the heroes that helped us fight the Cardinal Virtues, asking, wait, you want to do what with the crystals? And they basically say, no, that's fine. After all the story of that.
Right.
To which they also have a massive party.
And we find out who can and cannot control their alcohol.
And Lurik basically blasted his budget.
Yep.
Lurik blasted his budget. Granson dropped dead after a single sip of wine.
Yeah, lightweight.
And Giat basically just...
kept on doing what Giat does. Getting drunk and beating people up.
With our other two friends, I forget their names.
Tainer and Sirig.
Yeah, Tainer and Sirig were basically just Sirig got drunk.
Right.
Tainer was basically the only one because he's underage.
Right, but he was the one making sure everyone else was trying to behave.
Or at least drinking water.
Right. Still, I was curious about Silva's inclusion because I did see her pop up. I think the only story where she doesn't really pop up, because she shows up in the background in all of the stories.
I think the only one she doesn't really show up in is Lamit's. Because Lamit was the first companion of Ardbert.
Well, Lamit shows up at the end because she's smirking because that at the end where Ardbert's comforting her after she's exiled from her dwarven village, it cuts to her smirking because she realizes this is the point at which they're all set. And canonically, throughout each of the role quests, she plays some background portion, and then it cuts to her where it's like, why do they keep cutting to this side character who seemingly has no particular role, and why is she never mentioned in the Warriors of Light?
I'm pretty sure that's the incentive for you to do all of the role quests.
Right, and then if you do all of them, you do find out, oh, she was, and you find out this involvement. You only get this part of the role quest if you do all 4 roles.
Yes, which is probably a little bit more to ask of a few players than most.
Before Endwalker, as I understand it, probably not as much, because that's basically healer, tank, some range DPS, and then melee DPS.
It's magic DPS and
physical.
Magic and physical, yeah.
Right, but that's the way that it was split then.
Yes.
Now it's tank, healer, magical, physical, and ranged.
Yes.
So 4 classes, that's a bit of a stretch. I could see 2, 3 maybe. 4 is a bit of a stretch. 5 is where people start getting annoyed.
Yeah, that's where you have to basically master, or at least have attempted, every single job role.
Right.
Which I can get as being a bit much, but I think it's worth it in the end.
I think we've had this discussion off camera before, but if my memory serves me right, the other role conclusions, or the role capstones, are not as satisfying as this one.
I will say Endwalkers is a bit more satisfying than most. I will say Dawn Trails is
not.
It's a joke.
Okay.
It's basically a fucking joke. They're so lighthearted and kooky that it's weird.
Okay, but I feel like, this is out of context, because of the entire point of Dawn Trail is to be a palate cleanser to what happens in Endwalker, I feel like that should be taken in stride.
I know it is. But part of me feels like it could have been at least a little bit more serious. But, again, that's personal taste. We'll get to it when you do them.
Right. But that is the major capstone that is not considered patch content. It kind of is, but it doesn't really have a place within it. It's contingent on role quests.
Yes, and then there's a final capstone at the end of 5.3 where Silva talks about wondering how Unakalhai is doing, considering that they're both from the Void, and she laments that maybe if we had worked together back then, we could have saved our world.
And that goes ahead reminds you, oh yeah, isn't he just an Ascian? He can just pop himself over whenever.
Yeah, which basically, after you have done the Warring Triad quests and the extremes tied to Unakalhai, you can now go back to the source, and with an implement that is given to us at the end of 5.3, we can bring him over from the source to the first with the help of another character, and bring him to there, and they start working together. What happens is Unakalhai is curious into Tainor's abilities to open up the Void.
And although Tainor says it requires great amount of training, and specifically the memories of Nilebert in order to access, because he is an Ascian and can basically
read the crystal, he's able to basically quickly attune to Nilebert's crystal, use it to go ahead and gain basically a clone of his memories, and be able to, in basically only a matter of a few short hours, perfectly trained to be able to open up portals with Tainor. Yes, which basically, the idea is they want to find a way to get back to the Void to try to see if they can fix it.
Which, with another character's assistance and their magic familiar, they're able to go ahead and run some preliminary tests which confirm, yes, they are able to do that. It will take some
finagling,
lots of time, at least. They're not really, they don't spitball a range, but they say it's going to take fucking time.
It's going to take fucking time. Well, thankfully, Silva and Unakalhai have nothing but time.
Considering they're functionally Ascians.
Yeah, they're basically like our characters in the first. They're basically soulless bodies There's basically souls that have manifested a body of sorts.
Yes.
We don't know how long they can stay like that, but that's a future problem.
Right. That is the one thing I will say is that there are some future problems that never get addressed. This one comes up. The only other one that I have yet to see have a drawback is
Y'shtola's eyesight?
Y'shtola's eyesight, which I am pretty sure this falls under a you completely forgot this plot point, didn't you?
To be honest, it was a mistranslation.
Okay.
Basically, she's just using more of her ether than usual. She's not burning her life force.
Okay.
She's just using more energy than usual.
Go back and fix it then.
I know. She's basically just tiring herself out using her magic eyesight.
Oh, so she's not just resting bitch face, she's actually tired.
Bingo.
See, that's funny.
Yes.
So suddenly her being, I have to waste my ether to watch him pull this bullshit.
Yes.
That is basically what I imagine Y'shtola is thinking every time she sees the shenanigans we are pulling.
Probably, especially some of the other scions. But regardless, that is basically the end of the job capstones. Unakalhai and Silva are stuck in the first for now. Mm-hmm. They have a means or a method in order to go back to the 13th to try to help their problems. Mm-hmm. For now, there's nothing they can do, but they'll just help around the first for now. Unakalhai is going to join up with Tainer and the other guy.
Yes.
And they're going to go out on adventures and do stuff like that. It's also hinted that Unakalhai might actually be the reflection of Nilebert.
Yes.
Because given how well he attuned to Tainer, because Tainer even mentions that your ether is oddly familiar.
Yes. And that's, as we're going to go through the patch quest, you can just basically read ether as soul, literally, just one for one.
Pretty much. But basically, the soul is comprised of two parts, the soul and memory.
Right.
A human body has three things: physical ether, soul ether, memory ether.
Right. So, I would say before we go, I would say in terms of the order for this, let's, the only other thing before we go into the raids is I just want to talk about my own personal progress through the store, through the game on your site. Through the game. I haven't made too much, but what we have done since the last time is we have started Warrior.
Yes.
And so two comments I will make. One, the Neophyte Ring actually helps out a shit ton.
Yeah, I believe last time we had just gotten you your job stone.
Yes. So, briefly, I just want to go over Marauder's job quest. Basically, we are helping out we are training to take down Kujata, a large Auroch, who is rampaging alongside the Limson community and has unfortunately caused the creation of an orphan by the name of Sigurd.
Yes.
And Sigurd, at one point, goes so mad he tries to go ahead and fight one of the Aurochs with a freaking stick. I should mention that Aurochs, if you have not seen them, are basically elephant bulls.
Yes.
Massive elephant-sized bulls with longhorn horns and basically able to trample over everything. And Kujata is a titan amongst the Aurochs.
To which his roars also seem to agitate or anger packs of wolves and stuff in the area, which ends up crippling Sigurd for a little bit.
Yes.
He gets attacked. We have to fight them off to protect him. We're learning the mastery of the axe for the most part, learning how to smash rocks and stuff like that.
And channel your brute force.
Yes.
You also meet the various guild members of the Marauders Guild, who basically just act as open muscle for Libsa outright.
Yeah, they're part of the Yellow Jackets. They are part of the
militia.
They're the militia, pretty much.
Yeah, they're the shock troopers of the militia. Interestingly, they do reach out. They have the guildmaster Wyrzen has his sister, who is a healer, do a lot of reconnaissance for them, And they also do basically a beatdown initiation near the end, in which Werlyt dresses up in a helmet and ambushes you as part of your final initiation before you hunt down Kujata.
It's a little goofy, but it's I wouldn't say it's the best early story.
It's decent. If in terms of doing the job, which is what I'm pretty sure that one was meant to do,
yeah,
it's satisfactory. In comparison to the Gladiator questline, which basically has you seek out the old guildmaster who took on who basically took on a debt of cheating to save his girlfriend from being accused of heresy by his old guild buddy, and then having a duel to the death on a bridge. Yeah, not nearly as fancy.
No, and especially considering the pugilist one, which you said was pretty amazing.
The pugilist one I liked because it plays into some of the fighter quirks so easily. Specifically, washed up fighter goes back for one more fight to save his dojo,
and then the flash of him looking like his old self.
And in at the climax, he not only is trained up to be somewhat decent, but then he's able to pull off his old move like he once as a young man, and you get to see what he looked like in his heyday. Yeah, that I thought was I peaked for that.
Yeah, the Lancer one is not that great, to be perfectly honest. It deals with a Duskwhite Elezen who's basically trying to make you join him in a darker method of using the lance, but it turns out that he's basically a wimp of sorts because he gets scared off by the actual Lance Guild leader because the Duskwhite doesn't know how to handle huge groups of enemies and gets overpowered. And he gets angry at you. He considers you your rival, and you have to fight him off. And then he basically he drops his sphere. He starts freaking out, and then he falls off a cliff.
So I have two questions.
Yeah?
Number one, does this have anything to do with the
Dragoon?
Wood Whalers?
Kinda, yeah.
Okay. Number two...
Because the Lancers are part of the Wood Whalers alongside the Archers.
Okay. Two, I feel like this is one of those meta commentaries which occasionally comes up in Final Fantasy XIV, because it certainly feels like, oh yeah, I'm the biggest and I'm the best, and then he can't... We just literally ran a dungeon this week in which we had two DPS who could not figure out how to use AoE attacks.
Yeah,
so,
pretty much.
So I have a mild feeling that this is one of those stories based off reality.
Well, to be honest, Lancer/Dragoon doesn't get very many AoE attacks until very late, which is kind of fucking bullshit. They really need to rework when you get certain things. Also,
consider the jokes that people make about Dragoons being so close to the edge that they jump off it.
Floor tanks. Yeah. So, I will say Conjurers actually ties into White Mage, which is I liked a lot. That was one of the things that was like, oh, we're bringing back the Conjurer characters to talk about the White Mage stuff. That is good. That is very good.
Yeah, that happened also with Monk and Pugilist. That also happens in the Stormblood arc.
Okay, that's good.
But the last thing I will cover before we get into Werlyt is I did the Moogle delivery quest line.
Oh, you got the
I got the Star-Spangled Subligar.
Oh god, and that is used by a lot of Rogadan bots.
I wonder why. Anyway, I will go over the briefness of this one because this goes into what I thought was actually really unique for this quest line. You are doing deliveries for basically a bunch of NPCs within ARR and finding out their backstories.
Yeah, it's a people tell me that the Post Moogle questline is really good.
It is. So, just to go ahead and give you there are three highlights for me. Number one is you find out why Momodi is Momodi. Turns out that Momodi at one point, she apparently gets sought out by people at the Sandstone a lot.
Oh boy.
And she turns them down a lot.
Yeah.
Because she apparently had a fling with a former artisan who she didn't run away with, but she still kept his gift to her, which was a jeweled earring or hairpins.
Yeah.
I forget. Accessory is the point.
Yes.
And so there's a lot of talk about forgotten romance and living while you're young, and basically she was happy to stay here and be in the sandstone and help out people find where they need to go.
Quicksand.
In the quicksand. But she herself, her time has passed.
Right.
And that's why she turns down anyone who attempts to woo her. Much to the chagrin of, I'm pretty sure, the Lalafell community.
Yeah, pretty sure.
Number 2, because it's the Wood Whalers, and I'm trying to remember the bandit of nearly all Makote in the woods.
Well, they're the moon. They're the Moon Makote.
The Moon Makote, but there's a row, because here's what.
Well, they're poachers.
Yes, the poachers.
Yeah, that's what they are. There's poacher Moon Makote out in the Gridanian forests.
Okay,
they're really not really expounded upon.
Well, that's why I'm trying to tell you that they are. So one of the Makote females, basically, who was probably more involved if you were starting in Gridania, she basically calls you out and asks for your help to get in contact with her sister, who has become part of the Wood Bandits in the forest. And basically you find out that in actuality those poachers are all female because of the fact that they're being run by the Curl King, who is basically a kicked out Makote who said, "Fuck you, I'm going to go ahead and start my own tribe den with blackjack and hookers."
Oh boy. And
so basically creates a bandit harem in which they basically do the cult of personality thing and causes all the chaos and mental abuse and all the bad trigger phrases to go ahead and keep them not just together as a harem but also as a gang.
Oh boy.
And the sister tries to break her out, which doesn't work out well. They end up part amicably because it's not meant to be this way. And the sister that you help resolves to actually learn how to fight herself so that one day she can free her sister.
All right, that sounds interesting.
And then the third one is involving the Fisherman Guild Master.
Oh.
In which he has...
Oh god, him.
Yes. In which he has a friend who I will gladly go ahead and help you with your business deals if you can go ahead and catch a fish. And the poor man who has never worked a day in his life and has basically succeeded only because of his gift of gab, basically fails and is trying to go and begs you to help him catch a fish.
I see.
So you can go ahead and win the bargain, to which he this is actually how you get the Star-Spangled Subligar.
Oh god! So this is because of his gift of gab. He had that.
Yeah, well, that's what he was trying to. That's what he was trying to sell the Fisherman Guild Master.
Oh god! That guy is a fucking womanizer.
Yes.
Yeah.
So does it make sense that he wants to wear the womanizer pants?
Ugh. I don't think a woman would want to be within 30 feet of that thing.
The thong or the Lalafell?
Both.
Fair enough. But nonetheless, eventually he's like, don't worry, I'm going to help him out anyway. I just wanted to teach him a lesson about trying to be self-sufficient for once.
Yeah, fair enough.
By the way, keep the Subligar. I have like 30 at home. That is literally how you get it, is that he literally says, yeah, don't worry about it. I've already purchased a ton.
Oh, good. God damn it.
So yes, if you want to learn more about your favorite ARR side characters, because I've only mentioned the 3 that I thought were interesting, hilarious, or otherwise heart-moving, there are more stories like that, and then some, not to mention you get to see a Moogle get berated because he's a lazy fuck.
You also get the Postman hat, which I thought was a very cute hat. The problem is it can't be worn by a Hrothgar.
And it's only available at the end of the quest line.
Yeah.
So you have to really work your butt off for that one.
Yeah, which sucks. I'm not going to do a quest line for an item that I can't wear.
It's also funny because at the end of each quest line, it levels up in its own class.
Yeah.
Air quotes, because every ending it levels you up a different rank on the Postman scale.
Yeah, which is weird, but...
Again, I think that was they were messing with the humor to see what hit or not, and I think that was one of the ones that didn't land.
Yeah.
Anyway, this has been too uplifting for a Shadowbringers story arc, so let's talk about Sorrows of Werlyt.
So technically this actually unlocks in patch 5.2. We'll get to that. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking maybe we could talk about 5.1, then talk about the intro to 5.2 to get into Sorrows of Werlyt. Do you want to go in chronological order, or do you just want to go into the Shadows?
I give no fucks.
Okay, let's just do Sorrows of Werlyt.
So, everyone's favorite anti-hero, Gaius Van Baelsar.
Yes, he basically warns us that there is weapons coming when we check in on the Eorzean Alliance to see about the status of the war.
That's capital W, not just little lowercase w.
Yeah.
So, Final Fantasy VII fans may know what's about to happen.
Yeah, so basically we go in because there's apparently a weapon coming in and we need to intercept it. And it turns out to be the Ruby weapon from Final Fantasy VII.
So... it starts out as your normal raid fight. You know, you're going to go ahead and confront an enemy, and you go ahead, learn the patterns, watch the attacks, go ahead, bring it down to 0 HP, no problem.
Activate Synthetic Oresight.
Synthetic what?
Running Nail Van Darnus simulation.
Nail Van what? And that is how you go ahead and introduce a phase 2.
That is a phase 2 that, if you've done the Coils of Bahamut, you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah. And so what happens is apparently these vessels are manned, and once they have basically run their use, you basically flip a dead man switch, forcibly override the pilot with someone else's soul for some reason.
Yeah, soul and memories. In this case, Nail Van Darnus' memories and techniques. Problem is, it was copying the techniques that she was using while she was possessed by fucking Dalamud.
So, fantastic. We got the Phantom of our past again.
Yes, with Chariot and Dynamo, and dealing with 2 dragon ads, and watching a bar fill up as Dalamud's demise happens, which does a freaking huge raid wide that does a lot of damage.
Granted, because we were actually higher, you are meant to take this hit, and it's not meant to be a wipe.
Yeah, Dalamud did fall.
And it's going to fall again?
And again.
So yes, the first fall may not have killed you, the next 3 will. So that's why you have to hurry up and kill it.
Yeah, pretty much. And what did you think of that fight?
Well, that was certainly interesting. I think that one probably was not too bad. I think just more of the fact that it's dropping the moon on us again.
Yeah.
It is a new level of PTSD for the Warrior of Light.
Yeah, because technically, your Warrior of Light is supposed to also be the Warrior of Light from 1.0.
Yes, so you are particularly traumatized after this set of scenarios.
Yes.
But not as much as Gaius is going to be by the end of this, though.
No, because we find out as we come to investigate the weapon, a couple of Alra show up.
A couple of Alra Garlean soldiers show up.
Yes, and they reveal themselves to be Gaius's adopted children.
Well, first off, they just say that they're his children. In an echo, we later find out that they are his adopted children, because I believe my comment to you is, hold up, Gaius was banging some Alra?
Nope.
That would have made him infinitely cooler.
But yeah, we've got technically Allie and Alphonse, the 2 white-haired kids. We got Rex and Rei'tan. I can't tell the 2 apart. Mm-hmm. And we've got Melisandre, who was running the Ruby weapon.
And she, of course, is completely gone, because not only does activating Synthetic Silver Soul absolutely kill you, it basically liquefies whatever remains there were.
Think Ava. Just think Ava.
Yeah, straddle in, folks. Get ready for a healthy dose of Gundam.
Did you know that the writers of Sorrows of Werlyt also wrote Dawn Trail?
Well, they better. Considering all the angst they put us through now, they better channel it out somewhere else later.
Well, I mean, it's kind of... I mean, some people hated Sorrows of Werlyt for some reason.
This is the Junji Ito effect of... we channeled some very dark things here. We have to balance it out somewhere else at some point.
Yeah, pretty much.
And that's basically how I'm seeing it with Shadows of Werlyt. Anyway,
basically the kids show up. They say that they're doing this for for their own sake because they have a plan to do something, and they fuck off. Meanwhile, Sid shows up to take a good look at the ruby weapon and analyze basically what happened. So it's a Sid and Gaius tag team. Mm-hmm. And basically, we realize that they're all stationed in Werlyt at the moment, which is a small province right by Alamigo, very small country.
It's basically for geographic purposes. It's basically Greece.
Yeah, it's Greece in for lack of a better term, and it's there that they have set up their base of operations, and we are going to go and fight them. And to do that, we are bringing our own weapon.
Well, there are two things because you're getting a little ahead. First off. We also get more, as we're working to fight the weapons, we are more closely introduced to Sevra, and I forgot what his other name is, the Elizin.
The Elizin, yeah. Sorry, I forgot to write down their names.
No, you have his name written. Vaudelin. Vaudelin and Sevra, who are the Dragoon and the healer that accompany Gaius since Stormblood.
Sevra is basically a half-Garlean who you can tell by her eye, which is black, that it's basically atrophied. Mm-hmm. She's basically a failed Garlean.
Mm-hmm. And Vaudelin, who was a Duskrite who survived the original use of Black Rose.
Well, he was in Operation Archon.
Oh, he was in Operation Archon.
Yeah, so he was helping us fight during the Praetorium, and when Gaius escaped from Praetorium, Vaudelin basically, who was ready to kill him because he had his own shitty fucked up life where he lost his he lost his family to Black.
That's what I'm saying. He lost his family to the original Black Rose. Went on a revenge spree by joining the Twin Adders.
Yes.
Fought in Operation Archon. Basically caught Gaius after surviving the bullshit that went down with Ultima, and instead of killing him, Gaius was, "Let me get my revenge, and you can kill me when it's all over."
Pretty much.
And basically agreed to that persuasion check, and has conditionally holding a spear to his back ever since.
Pretty much. Which is very interesting, to be perfectly honest.
It's definitely one of the more interesting rival scenarios, and it definitely would set up a kind of slash fix somewhere down the road. I'm more than certain of it.
Yes, but regardless, with those characters in mind, Sid comes out and says, "We're going to take Werlyt," and he brings out his new weapon, the G-Warrior, which is based on the Ultima weapon.
Which he basically repurposed into our own fucking fighting Gundam.
Yes. To which we use in an instance against the Sapphire weapon.
Which is being used by Rei'tan, I believe.
Yes. It was originally going to be used by Rex, but Rei'tan took their place instead. Right, Rex is the blue-haired one, and Rei'tan is the green-haired one.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so and I think even within their own ranking, Rei'tan is actually considered the weakest of the five, but he went ahead and volunteered so that way Rex would still be able to lead them.
Yes. So basically, we have an instance where we fight as the G-Warrior. You get a little training with it beforehand to figure out how this works.
It's basically you have a laser sword, you have a shield array, you have giant laser beams, but it runs on an interesting system contrary to what you normally use. Because you have because you're not using something related to the Echo, HP and MP don't come back.
Yeah, and basically I believe you have to use a specific item to recover your TP.
Yes, so you have, and using your shield or your boost mode burns more HP or MP respectively.
Yes.
So meaning you have to manage both resources while using your limited recovery properly while sustaining DPS.
Yes, and it's said that the Sapphire weapon was actually more incomplete than the Ruby or following weapons. So it was not able to... So this is why we didn't get a trial with it, because it was underdeveloped. But it still had Oversoul in it, which is the ability that uses the synthetic Orocyte to implant the memories and abilities of another character.
And who are we copying this time?
From Heaven's Ward, Regula Van Hydrus, who we got to personally know during the Warring Triad.
Yep.
So, yeah, he's using, In the Name of the Emperor!
Yes. Which, I will say that one was a little bit rougher just because the angling...
Basically, there would be lines of turrets that appear and would start targeting you.
Right.
You had to move in a position to fire a laser at them to wipe them all at once.
Right. Here's what I was trying to say. You know how the bomb attack on the I forget the Garlean armors are?
Yeah.
That kind of works because you can move and turn around on a dime and you're not worried about constantly losing resources every second.
Right.
That was a little bit harder to do with this given the G-Warriors restrictions.
Right.
And I feel like the speed boost that you get in the so-called boosted mode is not as fast as I would like.
Yeah.
But this is an MMO. It's not a mecha game. And as someone who plays mecha games, I'm going to be severely disappointed. As a fan of mecha games, this whole thing is absolutely hype. Especially when they literally have you in the cockpit, ready to go like you're a fucking Sentai hero.
Yeah, to be honest, you kind of wish you were dressed up for the part.
I did not have my machinist anywhere near 80 when we started that. So
yeah, well, to be honest, you either have to play machinist for that, or you have to find the armors that make it look like you're wearing a plug suit.
No. You know what that is then, don't you?
What?
That's the High Allegan set from fucking Coils of Bahamut.
Oh, fuck. God damn it.
So you're going to have to grind arguably the worst series of trial dungeons that have ever been conceived.
I think you can buy them off the market board for cheap.
You hope.
I hope. But regardless, we take down the Sapphire weapon. We set up a base in Werlyt.
And kill another one of Gaius's kids.
Yes, pretty much. And then we get an echo flashback of how basically Rex was supposed to pilot it. Rei'tan comes in and says, "No, I'll do this. You guys are better at this. I would only hold you back, so I will stand my ground here and let you guys escape."
Correct.
And then after that, we get a cut to the leader of the 7th Legion, which all of these Aura kids are part of, and we get a hint of the main villain of this arc, Valens Van Varo, and oh boy, what a freak!
Not yet, though. This is a different kind of freak than what Xenos is. This is certified belongs behind bars.
Oh yeah. The Amber Alert is ringing.
Yeah, absolutely. This guy absolutely belongs on the list. He has Drake on speed dial.
Okay, that's good. But basically, we are introduced to him. He is backlit. He is in shadow. He is sweating up a storm after doing a whole bunch of push-ups, while 3 kids are on the side looking.
And as he's being told that 2 of his weapons are being destroyed, he's about to drink a glass of milk.
Glass of milk from the highest quality cows of Werlyt.
And chucks it at the messenger in rage.
Yeah, he chucks it at Alphonse, who takes a good beam to the head. And yeah, that's already red. It's not just red flags. These are blaring crimson.
Yeah, no, it's only going to get worse.
And then he puts on his gear, to which he comes up to Allie and has this weird pose.
Well, he goes ahead and he's greeting her with open arms and says, "So, let's have a discussion," as doors close behind them and you're cut to black and you're left with the worst taste in your mouth.
Yeah, and to be honest, I believe that was it for a patch.
Yes, that is where that ends.
That's where that ends for that patch. The next patch is for the Emerald weapon, to which basically we find out that they've probably hidden away in one of the castrums that are in Eorzea that still are in use. I don't know why the fuck they're still active.
Well, because they're military bases. So basically, unless they have been overrun or stomped out, they are going to still be in use.
Yeah, and it's really weird that there's one hovering, looming over Costa del Sol that hasn't been taken care of yet.
Well, apparently it's either it's not within range or it's just not a particularly notable striking location.
But considering that's the one that also leads to the Coils of Bahamut, I'm kind of questioning that. But regardless, we're tangenting.
Gege Riju just pays them off every time they say, yeah, we're going to invade. Now fuck off.
Yeah, that's true. Gigaruju would definitely do that. But regardless, we go to Castrum Meridianum, I believe that's the name of it, which is the trial for the Emerald Weapon with Rex piloting it.
Now, this is the one with the many arms, yes?
This is the green one with many arms.
So, this one, rather than going ahead and waiting for it to come to us, we decide to go ahead and siege it directly.
Yes.
And Rex goes ahead and pilots it to mess with us.
Yeah. He uses magnet bombs, he uses different weapons, and he does what I like to call the go around, go around, go around move.
Yep. He's got one of those rotating blast attacks.
Rotating blasts that also summon rings of AoEs, and you gotta basically weave between the rings while constantly moving. I feel sorry for black mages during that.
Yep.
But regardless, after we get into, I believe, about half health, he basically activates Oversoul and says goodbye to Ali and Alphonse, and we hear Baelsar data activating.
Yep.
To which he goes completely gold, and we see the shadow of the Black Wolf, Gaius Van Baelsar.
Yep, and starts to pull out the old moves from the Castrum from the Praetorium all over again.
From the Praetorium, boosted up, and we get this holographic projection of Gaius's siege on Werlyt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Gaius is actually witnessing this and commenting on it and going, "Oh God, oh God, oh God."
Yes, he is having his Iroh like this is what it's like to be on the other side situation.
Yeah, pretty much. And of course, Gaius is constantly lamenting the death of his children. But yeah, what did you think of the Emerald Weapon fight?
That one was, I remember, much more fun. It was definitely a little bit more intense, but I don't remember it being too bad in comparison to the prior one, just because of the way the G fight had it. I think between the three, well, not counting the third one, I still think compared to Ruby, I preferred Ruby, but this one was still good too.
Yeah, it's kind of hit or miss on the weapon trials. I like Ruby for its thematics.
Yes.
I do like Emerald for just the fact that it just sticks Gaius in the rear.
Yeah.
Yeah. But regardless, it's an interesting fight. And afterwards, we take the base. We find out that Ali was left behind.
Mm-hmm.
And we basically get another Echo flashback showing that basically Alphonse and Rex basically try to protect her because they don't want to lose her. They're doing this because they want to get control of one of these weapons that will be finalized. Because keep in mind, all these weapons have still been in the experimental phase.
Yes. Well, it's not just the weapons itself, but also the synthetic Oricide Oversoul system.
Yes.
Because regardless of whose memories are used on the pilot, fact of the matter is Oversoul is a death sentence. The moment Oversoul is triggered, you're gone.
They're basically trying to figure out a way to stop that.
Or at least perfect it in some way. It's not hinted what will happen when it's perfected, but that's at least what their plans to not just reunite with their father, but also fuck over Valens, which they are basically admitting they're doing under... They're working through
They're working under duress.
Under duress. They basically see that... They basically are hinting that Oversoul is their way out. They just haven't perfected it yet.
They want to gain control of one of these weapons, a perfected weapon, stick it to Valens, and basically find a way to free Werlyt.
Right.
They want to free their home, because we have gotten memories at this point of all the kids who have been saved by Gaius and saying, he's basically taken us in, we should do our best to help him.
We also see, by this point, it's made much more clear, but it'll be the best montages at the end. It's also made clear that as much of a dick as Gaius was to us for his war crimes, the man himself was very noble, especially because, one, he basically, not just were those the Aurora kids his kids, so was Junia as well.
Yeah.
And he was a great brothers in arms with the other Garlean that we fought at the start of that siege. Rydian. Yeah. And so basically Rydian
and Livia.
Rydian was his right-hand man. Lydia was one of his closest disciples, although she obsessed over him unhealthily.
Oh yeah, I'm going to tell you, Since they've changed the Castrum dungeon, she had a lot more talking about how she was and how she feels about Gaius. They cut out a lot about her, but now she's just completely bonkers.
Well, I mean, I remember even in the lead up to that, when you would still go through all the main quest lines and you'd see the clippets of them interacting. She basically was even worse than Albedo compared to with Ainzul Gone in terms of the obsessiveness with them. And now knowing that that he basically tried to treat it as a mentor-mentee, and she took the daddy thing all the way to the limits, absolutely nuts.
Yeah. Poor Livia.
And especially considering he actually treated these kids way better than any Garlean had any right to.
Yeah, because keep in mind, Garleans are racist against all the other races, calling them savages. Basically, these kids were stuck in a situation where they were considered savages, and they still fought their way into the Garlean Empire's military to try to change it for the better.
Honestly, it's surprising that they even did better than what happened to Fordola, considering all the Fordola also did the same thing. Was half or was basically made
she's pure Alamegan.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, because she was also in the same boat and she also did the same thing, and we know how that ended for her.
Yeah, it ended up biting her in the ass, and she's now got an echo that she cannot control.
Right.
And these kids are getting turned into pulp in the machine.
Yep.
God, this is fucked up.
Yeah, but let's continue with the pulping.
Anyway, we take Allie back to Werlyt. We try to get information out of her.
She is traumatized to sin.
But she still gives us a little bit of information, but she ends up running away from Gaius and back to Valen's.
Right.
Oh, but before that, we get a clip of Valen's torturing Alphonse.
And torturing the kids, who he's also trying to break.
Yeah, he's basically having the kids stick metal plates into a furnace
and branding dear old Alphonse all over.
Yeah, burn out the bad, burn out the bad, burn out the bad.
Yeah, we're not making that part up, folks. He literally has a horrific grin as he's trying to convince these kids to burn Alphonse. And literally, as it's going down, it just snap cuts to outside where the guard who is doing paperwork just mildly pauses in the middle of the burn being applied and then goes back to writing as if nothing had happened.
He's going like, Oh, must be Tuesday.
And so it shows, again, and this is punishment because Valens does believe that Alphonse did purposely hide Allie in order to go ahead, and again, it's part of their misgivings, especially because apparently Allie has the highest proficiency for Oversoul compared to her siblings.
Yes. It also shows that Valens is very pissed at the fact that Gaius has now access to 3 of his weapons.
He also has just an absolute hatred of Gaius, in part because he is someone who is similar to Nero in the sense of technology being supreme, but goes about it in all the wrong ways.
Oh, he's basically a fucking Nazi.
Yeah, well, I mean, even more so than among the Nazis. At least where Nero has a scientific interest in it, and he and Sid often were much more in the mechanics of it, Valens and Gaius were more in the military aspect of it. And so I guess you could say Gaius was much more of a tactician and battle master, Valens is more of the administrative type of general.
What was the name of that Nazi scientist?
Spengler?
Spengler or...
Spengler's usually the one that comes... No, yeah. Spengler's the architect.
Regardless,
you said the N-word, so we're going to have to go ahead and censor this later.
I'm not doing shit. Fuck that.
Fair enough.
No one's going to listen to this that far and get...
I mean, we're going to get struck anyway, but nonetheless.
Fuck YouTube.
I know. Yeah. Anyway, once we're finished going through that torturous process,
Allie ends up running away back to the military base and makes a deal with Valens to basically say she'll pilot the diamond weapon, but she wants Werlyt to be set free under her and Alphonse's safety.
Yeah, and Alphonse be, of course, unharmed.
Yes.
which Valens agrees to in text, but...
We soon find out Alphonse has had it rough.
Right.
But basically, she ends up piloting the diamond weapon, and by the way, they're trying to put Xenos' combat data into this fucking thing.
Well, that wasn't going to work out that well.
Yeah, because we also see experiments with Valens as he tests with Xenos, and we actually see a guy fucking bloat and cancerous growths happen to him.
Right.
Yeah, ugh.
Well,
and he even uses as the wife and kid.
Yep. It also sort of revealed that even the battle data is temperamental to the point of being uncontrollable.
That comes up again in 5.3 about Xenos.
Oh, yeah.
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 But Xenos being uncontrollable is kind of a running joke.
Right. Still, they were hoping that since Xenos is it is uncontrollable, they could somehow find a way to control him by using data as opposed to the real person.
Yeah. Data and using another method, another mechanic into the diamond weapon, which when Allie tries to take control of the diamond weapon and fight back, Valens tries to shut it down. She laments, and then instead of Oversoul activating, Overmind activates. And she goes wild. It looks like Valens is about to get blasted. We'll come back to that. And basically, the diamond weapon is running on a rampage through Werlyt.
Now, by this point, the other reason why we didn't use the G Warrior in the other fights is because it took damage after the Sapphire weapon fight, and so Sid had to make modifications and rebuilding. But he went ahead and upgraded it substantially and has turned it into the G Savior.
Which is basically, he made two of them, two G Saviors, both of them to act as platforms for the Warrior of Light to fight upon.
As well as a giant missile battery.
Pretty much. So, the Cloud deck, the fight with the diamond weapon happens. Mm-hmm. It is a rough fight.
No, I remember that fight was absolutely hilarious, especially because we kept splitting the party over the two platforms, and I think you were tanking still for most of that fight. I'm pretty sure you died nearly at one point, and I was trying to revive you from across the rift.
Yeah, I'm remembering that because the tanks will end up getting two freaking spread AoEs put on them, and you have to go to the other side of the platform, and the tanks have to split apart on that platform. Mm-hmm. People were stupid and kept coming over.
Yep.
And also, the diamond weapon would just attack with beams that would just target the tanks, and people kept standing in front of the tanks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that one was a little bit more wild, but I think that one had it was about as equal as the Ruby fight in terms of how it ends.
It also ends up going into a mode that makes it look like it freaked, which is, I think, the Xenos mode activating.
Yes.
And it basically knocks out one of the platforms for a little bit, and it basically just starts bouncing and jumping and moving around and slamming all over that one platform.
And in the end, we do find out that Alphonse, unfortunately, Valens didn't keep his word because, of course, he used Alphonse as one last experiment on the diamond weapon before he could perfect the Oversoul.
He basically put his brain into the diamond weapon to act as the Overmind, because during the fight, you hear both a familiar male voice and a familiar female voice.
Which is Alphonse and Allie.
Yes.
But, however, because Allie is physically there and it's Alphonse's brain that's taking the strain, Alphonse is actually able to go ahead and pass on not just his memories, but the memories of all their siblings who were sacrificed in Oversoul.
Yes, because all their data was collected and the like. When Gaius comes up to the diamond weapon to see what had happened, Valens shows up, explaining that he put Alphonse's mind into the machine, and Gaius starts to attack Valens. Who Valens says, "I've studied all your moves. You can't do anything to stop me."
And to which Gaius goes ahead and brings out a new move that he has since prepped since his time in with the Garleans.
Yes.
Which is like, what do you mean you learned?
Yeah.
You weren't supposed to do that. And then proceeds to go ahead and make him into a joke again.
To which the diamond weapon reactivates, Alphonse in control, grabs a hold of Valens, and starts squeezing him and telling him what a horrible person he is. To which the images of not only Alphonse, Allie, Rex, Rei'tan, and Melisandre show up, but all the other experiments people that had been used in Valence's experiments. He witnesses them as he gets crushed like a grape, and you hear him pop, and blood basically rush down the metal intricacies before being chucked down into the other area.
Yep, certified Shadowbringers here.
Yep. To which, sadly, Allie is put into a complete and utter catatonic state by this.
Yes. Because
she realized what had happened to Alphonse, and so she realizes she's all alone. But Alphonse asks Gaius to give something to Allie. And so when Gaius finishes off the diamond weapon, we go back to Werlyt. Allie is still catatonic, and we're told to go back and report everything to the front lines in Alamigo. While we're gone and the quest complete thing ends, we cut back to Gaius bringing a device up to Allie, and it starts projecting a hologram.
Not just one hologram. It portrays holograms of all her memories and all the memories of her siblings while they were in Werlyt.
Yes.
Everything from when they grew up playing together, the moment that they met Gaius, growing up with Rei'tan and Livia, and all of their memories together.
Even the day that Allie finally became a member of Gaius's contingent, she strikes a pose, and Gaius looks confidently saying, "Well done, my girl."
Mm-hmm. We also did kind of skip over one of the mini plots in which there's an engineer girl who was forced to work for the Garleans, helps join Sid in preparing the G Warrior into the G Savior, and she turns out to be one of the few friends Melisandre had.
Yes,
and was friends with the various Gaius kids.
Yes, and she sets up a memorial for all the people who lost their lives in the Werlyt.
In the Werlyt raid.
Yes.
And throughout this, Vaudelin also comes to terms with his vendetta and sets it aside, so that way Gaius and him and Severa can continue their crusade against the Garlean menace.
Right. And then Allie has a vision of all her siblings, and they all tell her to live on for their sake. Mm-hmm. To which that actually breaks the spell on her, and she smiles as dawn breaks on the sorrows of Werlyt. Mm-hmm. So, that was an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah, and I feel like it's given what we were shown earlier about Gaius, this is actually a very well written side plot regarding his involvement. Again, costs of war and all that stuff. More perspective on the Garlean side of the war. The one thing I will say was that I found the most interesting was the fact that basically all the kids knew that what they were signing up for, and that they all played their hero moments quite well. And ultimately, I think they all realized that only one of them could carry it through, and I don't think that there was any question that it was going to be Allie in the end.
Yeah, she was the youngest, and she was the one least traumatized by war.
Yeah.
And so they wanted to give her a better life.
Yeah.
If they could, they would like to all survive, but
yes.
There was no way they could.
Right. Getting to see the backgrounds for Severa and Vaudelin was also very nice. Valence played his part too well. He played his part too well.
He is the perfect character to hate.
I think my only problem with the Sorrows of Werlyt is that think about everything we found about Valence, and then take that compared to everything that... The only time we ever got close to any of the main dungeon bosses coming anywhere close to the same level of hatred as Valence is maybe when Titania freaked you the fuck out.
Yeah.
During that one end, right before her encounter.
Yeah.
That is probably the only time I would say that it gets that bad. Actually, no, I take it back. VOTH 3 is probably comparable.
Yeah.
Outside of VOTH 3, I don't think I think it's VOTH 3 1, Valence 2 in terms of that guy seriously creeps me the fuck out.
Yeah, I don't blame you. But in terms of characters to hate, who do you hate more, Asahi or Valens?
Oh no, Valens takes it all the way. I do not have the same level of for Asahi as you do. I do believe he's more punchable.
Oh yeah, he's infinitely more punchable.
Yes, infinitely more punchable, and the fact that he's younger means that his face will bounce back quicker.
Yes. Valens, however, that is a man you want to see roasted on a spike.
Yeah, I will say that it especially is interesting because thinking back, there's only one hero I've ever known to be able to drink milk and not be accused of being someone gross, and that's Yusei Fudo.
Yeah, I can see it.
But, like, anytime I see someone drinking milk and it's not accompanied either with sweets or cereal, that is the sign of a sociopath.
Oh, yes, incredibly.
So,
don't drink milk on its own. You'll look like a psycho.
You can either look psycho or sad if you drink it out of the carton.
That's true.
We are getting way too off topic. At the end, I would definitely say Stars of Werlyt is a 9 out of 10.
It is also the last raid series, I will tell you.
Okay.
It is the last raid series because from here on out, for Endwalker and Dawn Trail, the raid series is being integrated with the MSQ.
Okay.
So there's that.
Okay.
But I'm going to be honest right now. We're going to have to put the entire post Endwalker patches into a single episode. So we're doing all the side stuff as its own episode.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
One last thing, just because I remembered it before we're going into MSQ. The two side dungeons that show up. One of them is of mild importance, which is
Academia Uniter.
Academia Uniter, which is basically, hey, do you ever want to see what a Ascian zoo looks like?
Yeah.
And they go ahead and you find out it looks more like a Frankenstein's lab.
Well, you go through the words of Halmarut, the words of La Habrea, which is their
personal labs.
Their terms for their experiment zones. And you can see that the ancients had a lot of creations stored, but they all seem to have started to come out and run amok. And you get to fight Quetzalcoatl from Final Fantasy VIII. Mm-hmm. Because it gives us a hint at how what an ancient will do to create something akin to Zodiark. Right. Sacrifice their whole body to make a powerful being.
Right. And the more important one.
The twinning.
The twinning. The twinning? The twinning.
The twinning. The thing that kind of also got me into Final Fantasy.
Because of the fucking meme video.
Oh yeah. The fucking meme video of them just going through the twinning was like, I have no context for this, but this music sounds fucking rocking. I kind of want to get into the game because of that.
Yes.
I think that was... Because I had already heard about Shadowbringers being amazing, because I got in during Shadowbringers. I'd heard about Shadowbringers being really good, but I think that this was the linchpin to say, you know what, COVID's going on, I don't have a life, why don't I give this a try?
You know what's funny, particularly because of the timing for when this all happened? Part of the reason why that particular short blew up so much is that dance was the first major TikTok dance to make it a thing.
Yeah.
That was the keystone. And that also was part of the reason why Final Fantasy XIV had the surge that it did in addition to COVID.
Mm-hmm.
We played the twinning during the time that TikTok was going to be brought down.
Yeah.
And the dude went back, reshot his video doing the dance, and people reshot the meme video for the twinning.
I don't think I've seen that one yet.
We have to go find it after this, but I do know that it basically coincided start and end with that fucking dance and with Final Fantasy XIV.
Did you know that during a fan fest, you know the other meme video of like the white guy doing the weird awkward dad dance?
Yes.
They made that part of one of the fan fests.
Yes, the Primals performed with 4 dancers wearing party shirts doing that specific dance.
Yes.
I am more than aware, and even in the official fucking music video, they are doing the same dance with, I am pretty sure, it's either Yoshi P or Soken in a fucking acid robe doing the safety dance. The Final Fantasy XIV community is fucking bonkers.
And I love it.
So we played through the Twinning a ton. We read all the fucking expansions about Biggs and Wedge's successors doing the thing that they did. And in the end, their solution to go ahead and help Grahatia save the world and us
was making a fucking clockwork god out of Alexander and Omega.
Called the Tempest.
The Tycoon.
The Tycoon.
Yes.
Good freaking lord.
Yeah, that was basically an upgraded Alexander fight.
Yep.
And I love it. That is such a fun dungeon to run, and that is a BGM 100 run, regardless.
Yep. The only thing that would make it better is having having a long fall play throughout the entire dungeon. No, not it plays through the mini boss fights. It plays through the Tycoon fight. Just a long fall all the time.
True. Although I do like the version that they play for the Tycoon because that is another good song. It will copyright claim you though.
Yes, it will. It's also interesting because in addition to the fact that, and I told you this when we started playing Crystal Tower, I said this sounds eerily familiar. Because I'm trying to remember, it's a leitmotif of the Crystal Tower and the Omega.
It's a leitmotif of the Crystal Tower, Omega, and Alexander.
And Alexander, yes.
Yes.
So it combines all three themes: ARR, Heaven's Ward, Stormblood.
Yep, and that is why the raids are required material. I will never say otherwise. The raids and the Alliance raids are mandatory material. It has to be, because there is so many callbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's just good. Anyway, we gotta get into MSQ.
Yeah, let's start talking patch quests. So,
patch 5.1, Vows of Virtue, Deeds of Cruelty.
So we've taken care of Hades / Emet-Selch. We can go back whenever we want, but we still have to find a way to bring the rest of the party back.
To which Grahatius suggests we look into a certain mage that has skills regarding the soul, which he has secluded himself because he is a pneumo. He can live for a long time. He's secluded himself since the Flood of Light because he does not want to deal with people because of certain things. Regardless, we're going to go and knock on his front door and bug him. So... thus begins the Grand Cosmos, which is I think it reminds me a lot of, what is the archive from Heaven's Word? The Great Google Library?
Yeah, it reminds me of the Great Google Library in some ways.
Yeah, to be honest, this is slightly spoilers, but the owner of the place, Beck Lug, I have a sneaking suspicion that, considering he acts a lot like Ishtola and Matoya, I'm pretty damn sure he is Matoya's shard.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah.
And so, Bekalug, we confront his
various... we first fight him in his weird tentacle form.
In his shadow, he basically has like a void scent form that he uses as a cover to hide their true nature of a pneumo. And so we fight that. We also fight... various references to the Knights of the Round from Heaven's Ward, who have been we're fighting their first versions.
Yeah, we're fighting the Knights of Vobert instead.
The Knights of Vobert. And then it ends in fighting Luge, who is you remember that one OSP thing about Loki being beaten by Thoth?
I believe so.
Yeah, this is the same Logus.
Okay.
So this is the same fire spirit that can out eat because it eats faster.
Oh, that one.
Yes.
So basically, you get hit with a blue flame dot that will basically burn you to death unless you pass the flame onto something else. Don't burn everything in fucking sight, and make sure that the AoEs that fall don't burn everything in sight.
Yes, which we had that happen.
Thankfully, chandeliers will drop. You just need to make sure that you don't burn them, so you can burn them.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
You have to burn them timely.
You have to burn them with the right fire.
Yes.
Regardless, we go in. Becklug reveals his true form, which is a pneumo, as usual.
And we do the Numo thing of getting them to convince them to help us with some properly timed wordplay.
Sit, stay, beg, heal.
And that irritates Beak Luke even more than usual, but they eventually agree to assist us provided that we go ahead and cease it.
That we cease it and compensate him duly, which, hearing our story, turns out to be more than enough compensation, because he is utterly fascinated by the fact that our Scion friends are souls without bodies.
And basically expounds a bit further. Yeah, the longer you stay here, you will eventually atrophy away from your bodies, separating you two and causing, of course, all the bad stuff to happen.
Yes.
Alice, however, does wonder, given the nature of soul magic, can it also be used to restore people who have been cursed by Sin Eaters?
To which Beklug is curious about this, and he wants to go on a mini expedition with the twins to see the inn at
Inn at Journey's End.
Inn at Journey's End, thank you. And so we go there, and he's like, try this tonic. Okay, the tonic didn't work. I got something else in mind. Get me some water and clay, and make for me a porksy.
A what?
A pig. A flying pig.
A pig with Dumbo ears.
Pig with Dumbo ears, to which Alice makes very shoddily. much to Alphino's laughter.
Well, one of them was the artist, and it's certainly not Alice.
No.
Still, with her ether, she is able to go ahead and summon
a pig.
What was the pig's name, though?
Angelo.
Angelo, yes.
Yes. She summons Angelo and uses the spell that she had put into the pig to basically try to heal Halric. And it actually somewhat works.
She learns to be able to draw out. Since basically we know that this process of becoming a Sin Eater is basically an overabundance of light in a person.
An overabundance of light that stagnates their ether. So basically we have to reactivate their ether and basically shift it away from lightning. We have to shift it back to equilibrium.
Yes.
This fucking pig, becomes a reoccurring thing throughout the game from further on.
And here I thought I would only have to worry about bubble monsters.
No, you got... Anyway, this fucking pig, is going to be our... I don't want to say a Deus Ex Machina, but it kinda is.
The pig becomes a Deus Ex Machina.
It becomes a cure-all for a lot of problems.
Oh, Angelo.
Yeah. But regardless, it seems to work. So Alice is going to stay and try to learn to see if this can help and do stuff like that. Meanwhile, Alphino gets a call from Lady Chai about an issue in Yulemoor.
To which we follow Alphino to Yulemoor and find out Chai Nuz has gone missing.
First off, he'd been elected mayor.
Goody! Where's the mayor? He left.
So basically, we have to go hunt for him because Lady Chai is fucking inconsolable at this point.
Right. And we find out that basically what Chai's been doing is he's been actually talking to people and finding out what everyone's concerns have been, what their needs are, and trying to find out what exactly everyone needs in order to try and get them to work together. And not just within Yulemoor itself, he's also going to Rei'tan and Tomra to find out what he can do to help the people out there.
Basically, he's trying to get the neighboring areas to work together, B, make Yulemoor self-sufficient, and C, try to cause trading and ties with the other areas like the Crystarium.
However, he also knows his own limitations. He knows that he is a architect first, a businessman second, and a politician dead last.
Yes.
And so in that aspect, he reaches out to the former vice mayor.
The former vice mayor, Rendon, who was the assistant to Vothri's father, the prior mayor before Vothri, who left when Vothri started taking control.
When Vothri became Vothri.
Yes.
This went ahead and after Chai pleads his case, Rendon is like, all right, fine, but you got to do something to show me on your own that you're not just all talk.
And so basically, since China knows how to work stone, he's like, there's a bunch of runaway Talos in this area. Why don't I try to get a few of them under my control, and we can use them to help in the farm work and the labor of the area.
This leads to probably my personally most annoying minigame that we've ever had to do thus far in Final Fantasy XIV.
Yeah, have to try to get Chynez up to the thing without getting attacked by enemies.
So it's effectively just a rhythm game. You just have to tell him when to go. When the Talos' back is turned, the problem becomes is that there are other monsters in the way, so you have to wait for them to be out of the path in order for Chynez to be successful. You have to do this 3 times in order for it to go off without a hitch. And if you miss...
you have to do the whole thing over again.
And there are cutscenes in between each of the minigames.
Which sucks. I remember doing this when I first played, and yeah, I did not like it that much.
However, you are able to guide Chynez to success, and Rendon is convinced, so he goes and comes back with you with Chynez and the Talos to go ahead and act as guards for Yulmore until they can get enough manpower to supplement the guard.
Supplement the guard and supplement the farming. And then, as he returns, Dulia Chai is so elated to see him that she runs up, hugs him, and breaks his spine.
Yep, poor Chynez.
The minion for Dulia Chai has a little Chynez in her arms that she picks up and hugs, and then the head falls over.
Oh no! Oh,
I believe that Dulia Chai one is from one of the art books.
What does the description for that one say?
I don't remember. I'll have to look it up later. But regardless, I love that little minion. It is very funny. I should have been having that come around with us for a while we were doing this quest line.
Yes, that would have been hilarious.
But regardless, it looks like things in Yulmore are going to be looking bright because they're looking to be self-sufficient. At the same time of doing this, you can also unlock the custom delivery quest with Kai Shir, because he's also part of this little interaction.
Right. You and I did start that, and basically that custom delivery quest line involves him keeping the honeybee employed, because since luxuries are gone down and more common folk have come in, let's say predominantly stiffy nose clientele of the honeybee is no longer present.
Yeah, because people are being more active and less indolent. They are now looking to broaden their horizons and try to make the honeybee, the hive, basically a much better place.
Yes, they have to redefine what it means to be the honeybee, and that's what they're figuring out through Kai Shir's marketing schemes with his with his friends who are employees, one who is a dancer, one who's a bartender.
Yes.
And so you have to work with them to go ahead and help keep the honeybee employed.
But
if not for their sakes, for Rowena's shard.
Yeah, Moen.
Moen's, yes.
Oh God, there's always one of them. There's one in fucking Solution 9.
There's gonna be one on the fucking moon.
No. That one is Rowena, and she is currently in Mordona. Thank fucking God. Although, she does come up again with another character in Endwalker's custom deliveries.
I'm just saying, when you go to the moon, Rowena's gonna beat you there.
Oh God, I swear to God, if she's part of Cosmic Exploration, I will fucking eat a hat.
You mean the hat that you can't wear?
Shut up.
Right, so at the end of that...
We've basically gotten things settled in the first for now. We take a quick break by giving information to Tataru, and that ends patch 5.
No, it doesn't, because as soon as we do that, Tataru's like, I feel like we're forgetting something.
Oh, right.
Cut snap to Gaius and Estinian infiltrating the capital city.
Yes, basically, Estinian comes in through the front door of the Rising Stones, says, "Hey, sorry I couldn't say hi. I lost my link pearl."
And then we find out via Echo what he has been up to.
Ever since the end of the last cutscene with them in the royal capital, where Gaius was about to attack Xenos for killing the Emperor. To which some awesome action happens between the Dragoon and Gaius, caught with a nice limit break.
Mm-hmm.
They end up having to fucking flee, and to which they go their separate ways, and we follow Estinian, who goes through the lower path, to find a proto-Ultima weapon, which was the hint for the weapon trials coming up.
Yes. Also, you did not mention that when you talk to Tataru, she's you get the favored warning.
Several cutscenes will play in sequence.
Please set aside proper time to view them. It doesn't tell you that it's an instance coming up.
No, it doesn't.
So you and I started watching those cutscenes together, only for me to be kicked out halfway because it tells me cannot participate in an instance while part of a party.
Yeah, I don't know why that fucking happened. That is so fucking weird.
It should at least make Tataru glow with the instance, so that way you at least know, oh, I need to disband in case I do this.
Right.
I guess no one thinks because you're in an instance area that they also need to put that warning again.
Yeah, but that was weird.
Yeah, but nonetheless,
we get that information. Estinian's going to go back out and keep an eye on things and try to get in contact with Gaius and the like.
Yeah, this is also where they tried to go ahead and install some Xenos battle data into the prototype Ultima, which is again, they're still trying to find ways to replicate Xenos, even though the man is already back.
Yes. Regardless, that's the end of 5.1, to which we begin 5.2, Echoes of the Falling Star.
Oh boy, buckle up.
So, this basically says, we go in and check on the military, see what's going on, Gaius talks about the weapons. If you want, just go do the weapons then, come back and say, and Kryl goes, okay, now that you've taken care of that, why don't you go tell the Scions what's going on in the first? Because basically, the war's at a fucking standstill at the moment. The Emperor is dead. Xenos is doing whatever the fuck. There's a goddamn civil war going on in Garlemald again.
It's ancient Rome. Of course there's a civil war.
Yeah. Which is funny. The last one happened about 3 months ago.
Yes. And as anyone who has studied Rome since COVID would tell you, that happens quite frequently.
Oh yeah, we're in Rome at the moment.
Yeah, don't remind me.
Regardless, we go back to the first. We let them know about that, and Lena calls us in after we tell everyone what's going on, that she needs our help dealing with a Sin Eater, but specifically to help raise the morale of some new recruits.
Well, not morale, but she figures that having the Warrior of Light,
Warrior of
Darkness, go around and a patrol goes ahead and would inspire some of the troops for when we leave for good.
Yes.
We get to meet some of the NPCs again who have now joined the Crystarium Guard.
The only one of imports is a guy by the name of Thaler. Mm-hmm. He will show up later. He will also show up in future Manderville.
Really?
Yes.
Okay then. So we go ahead, we're charging up the hill to go confront the Sin Eater, only to find it's already dead.
To which another character, let me see, I forgot his name, Vonrad, shows up and says, yeah, it turns out he was killed by a guy claiming to be a Warrior of Light.
Warrior of Light with this giant battle axe.
Yeah, and everyone's wondering, why the hell would you call yourself a Warrior of Light? And because in this world, the Warrior of Light is synonymous with the Flood of Light, and so it's got a bad connotation.
Right. This brings about 2 points. Number one, who's walking around carrying a badass axe, suddenly killing people? Two, we never did correct everyone about what actually happened 100 years ago.
So the Crystal Exarch calls everyone into a meeting in the main plaza, to which the Warrior of Darkness, aka us, gives the lowdown on Ardbert and his cohorts and what they actually did. And what they continued to do even when Ardbert was dead.
Only for Ardbert to somehow actually show up in the middle of the fucking crowd.
And basically do a call to arms to the people to go out there and save the world yourselves. Become Warriors of Light! I'm sorry?
You smell that?
I smell halibut.
I smell Asian.
Yes, I do too.
So everyone, and I do mean everyone at this point, realizes that there's Asian nonsense afoot.
And basically the only paragon left is Elidibus, who has currently been booted out of Xenos' body. Mm-hmm. So, put two and two together. But before that, we have to do some, I believe, we go into Slitherbow, right?
No. Before that, as we're sitting about what to do with what we presume to be Elidibus Ardbert.
Yeah.
You actually get a visit in the middle of the night by one of the four...
Oh, wait, that's actually not till the end.
That's not till later?
That's not until the end.
Really?
That's not till the very end.
Really?
Yes, because we haven't done the star shower yet.
Oh, right. Yeah, that happens later. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, what we have to do now is we have to go to Slitherbow because Y'shtola wants to gather some information on Ronka, specifically one of the ancient heroes.
Okay. Oh, yeah, because basically all of the nonsense that Elidibus Ardbert has been spouting makes her go back and think about what Emet-Selch was saying earlier. And so, seeing that was where they saw the murals, she wonders if there are any more deeper within the temple.
Right. And so we go with, like, the three...
sisters.
The three, not Viera, Viz sisters, who cause a trap to trigger.
And thus begins our next dungeon.
Not dungeon, but it's an instance. It's a mini game of sorts where you have to basically play against this weird creature to rescue your friends who have been sealed in cards. What is this, fucking Yu-Gi-Oh?
Well, first it starts off with a Sphinx puzzle. So it describes monsters and asks you to go ahead and pick the ones that it's telling you based on the statues, which are the wolf, the curl,
the monkey,
the bird. So you have to go ahead and do those. It's three of them to the three Vi sisters.
Yes, and
then for Y'shtola's soul.
You have to play match.
Find the matching parts of Y'shtola's soul, and you win her back.
Yes. If you flip up two of the wrong cards, you actually have to fight an enemy. If you get the two right cards, you get Y'shtola.
Yes.
You will eventually get Y'shtola, even if you fuck up a bunch of times.
Well, because it lets you fight as many monsters until there's only the two Y'shtola cards left.
To which you then fight the Sphinx proper.
Yes.
Which, it's an alright fight.
This is where we start to see much more, like, I would say since Stormblood and into Shadowbringers, you see a lot more gimmicked fights in which they actually have set pieces occur in which certain events have to take place and you participate with them either with stack markers or participating in AoEs, gathering lines, things like that.
Yeah, they're getting better with the instances because this was when they first introduced this type of combat.
Okay.
Because... in Stormblood, they brought up the idea of you playing as the different characters. In Shadowbringers, they bring up the idea of you fighting with NPC party members.
And having it participate with set pieces. So that's where this starts to come in.
Yes. Gets better in Endwalker. Really good in Endwalker. But for now, we take care of that. We learn of an ancient Ronkan sorceress who saw stars and was a prophet of sorts. So we believe that she had the Echo. Mm-hmm. And so we get that information, and to which we go back to the Crystera. We go back to Slitherbow, to which we find out that the Ardbert that we have been encountering is in the area.
And has been going around spreading the same kind of nonsense about being a hero of light and all that jazz.
To which we set a trap for him to try to confront him in a secluded area.
To which he joins in and says... All right. You know what I'm doing. I know what you're doing here.
I'm dropping the act, and I'm showing you my actual voice actor.
Yes. Because I think that was the first time Elidibus actually got voiced.
Yep, it actually was. That was the first time we heard Elidibus' voice actor, and my god, it's a voice.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he basically admits that he doesn't believe... he doesn't think Emet-Selch's Remember Us speech was... He thinks Emmet was fooled by the end. And so he is going to carry on the mission of the Astians to do the rejoining still.
Right. And as hinted by his end dialogue at the end of Shadowbringers, if he can't make it succumb to darkness, he's going to have to just bring the light around and overwhelm it that way.
Yeah.
And so that's what he intends to do. So by the time that everyone gets back, I'm sorry, I forgot the lead of Crystarium.
The Graha?
No, well, what is his title? The Exarch, sorry.
The Crystal Exarch.
I was trying to remember his title because I know he's Graha now. I was trying to use his title because he hasn't revealed that to everyone else.
Well, technically, everyone's seen his face now. They now know he's a Mikote, or in this case, a Mistel.
Right. But the Crystal Exarch manages to calm everyone down by initially understanding their desire to do good, but also reminding people that there's still work to be done in the Crystarium. And so he calms the furor of the people by saying, if you want, we can talk it through, but we need time to go ahead and organize it.
Yeah, you kind of jumped up a bit where we had to go back to the Crystarium.
Right.
Sorry,
But
I lost the train of thought for a second.
Okay, but we finished our discussion with Elidibus.
He leaves. We go back to the Crystarium. There is chaos among that.
There's chaos because people don't want to wait to slowly phase out.
Yeah.
Which is now the problem that the Crystal Exarch is having. And so what ends up happening is, as we try to help the Crystal Exarch out,
a star shower happens, which seems to awaken a lot of people to the Echo.
Which only spurs them on even further to go out and do good deeds.
Specifically because Ardbert shows up and tells them, you have been blessed. Right. You are a warrior of light. Right. Go out and adventure. To which basically Urianger deduces that Hydaelyn is basically sending out a constant SOS signal of hear, feel, think to people, like nonstop. And she will use the star shower as a means of awakening people's lingering memories of the final days to basically snap them into going, I can hear this. Am I destined for something? Mm-hmm. And that makes them into warriors of light. Which is... why is Elidibus doing this? Why is he awakening more warriors of light?
I think Elidibus said something to the effect of, oh, I'm not doing jack shit. I'm just showing you what is already there.
Yeah.
Which isn't too far dissimilar to what Emet-Selch said.
Pretty much.
Anyway, we will find... This goes back to the whole thing of one side summon Zodiark, one side summon Hydaelyn. Yeah, I kind of can see where the tone of Endwalkers is going to go, but I'm jumping ahead.
But basically, we need more information on the Ancients. There are still ruins in the deep that we haven't been to. Actual ruins, not the fake simulation from that Emet-Selch made, but the actual ruins.
Right.
To which we once again hop on Bismarck and go down to our next dungeon, Emet-Selch.
Yes.
Which is an alright dungeon.
It's a fairly action-packed dungeon, starting off with undersea ride on Bismarck's head, dealing with a bunch of sea monsters.
Yeah, a literal sea monster called Unknown. That was a fucking fight. I never know how to deal with that fight, even as a tank.
I can see why that one was causing some difficulty, but I thought it was pretty fun. You end up getting to the Ananesis and Niter, hopping off of Bismarck, and then starting to fight through it properly.
Right. And then to which you find at the end the enemies of the Ondo, their other counterparts.
Yes. Who were basically using the ruins of Ananesis and Niter as their next spawning ground, as their main spawning ground. So you have to fight the Queen in order to prevent them from causing chaos.
To which that will probably cause a lot of issues for that group later down the line. But for now, we go into the area, which is still immaculately preserved, in which we activate a panel which causes a flashback of, not an echo flashback, but a flashback that was recorded of the people who summoned Hydaelyn discussing how they will summon Hydaelyn.
Was it discussing how they summoned Hydaelyn or summoned Zodiark?
Hydaelyn.
Okay.
These were the people who were against the convocation.
Okay.
And was led by a character by the name of Venat.
Venat or
Venat.
Oh, Venat.
Venat.
Okay.
Venat. That's how it's said in the game. But basically, she is the leader. We wonder what the heck happened. We go to the panel and get more information, to which Venat says she will become the heart of Hydaelyn. In which one of her cohorts says, I wonder if this is how the convocation felt about Elidibus. Which made everyone go, what are they talking about? Are they talking about a prior Elidibus or our Elidibus?
Remember, Elidibus is the title of the person in office.
Yes.
So there's only one Elidibus.
Yeah. So, there's only one Elidibus at a time. So, yeah. So people are wondering. Y'shtola says, I'm going to stay here and do some research digging. You all go back and keep abreast of things going on up there. To which we then decide to go and take a rest at the Pendants.
Right.
To which we then get bothered by Glynard, who's bringing one of our companions from the roll quests up.
Or Silva if you've done all 4.
Yes.
Which I did choose that. Did I? No, I chose Lamit originally.
Yeah, you chose Gyat.
I chose Gyat originally, and each of the role quest participants basically brings this Ardbert. I don't know who he is, but he's disrespecting the memories of the companion that they're associated with.
Right.
So in Gyat's case, she is absolutely pissed that someone is messing around with Lamit's beloved.
Yes.
And insists on you giving them a good dwarven thrashing.
Dwarven decking, to be precise.
Yes. However, if you've done all 4 before this, and you go ahead and do the quest line up to this point, you actually can have Silva be the one who seeks you out instead.
Yeah, and she just fucking materializes.
Well, it kind of implied that she was waiting for Gunnar to open up the door first. She didn't want to knock.
Well, even Glennar was like, "Where the fuck did you come from?"
Right. Nonetheless, Silva also expresses her disdain, not only because of the fact that he's prancing on the Warrior of Light's name, but also because of the fact that as the Shadowkeeper, she recognizes black magic when it was used, and she's the one who more appropriately identifies, yeah, they took out Ardbert's fucking corpse to do this.
Yeah. Basically, when you fused with Ardbert, his body lost the Blessing of Light, which basically prevented other Ascians from possessing him.
But since we absorbed him into us and that's no longer the case,
Ardbert's free to be possessed and used, which lovely.
Yeah.
So that happens, and that ends 5.2.
Yes.
Oh boy.
So 5.3.
Oh boy.
So
peak Shadowbringers coming up.
So we go ahead and learn that even back in the Ronkin era, the witch that was foreseen in the Ronkin Temple wasn't even the earliest Warrior of Light.
No. We go back to the Cabinet of Curiosity, to which I believe, I don't remember his name. Morin, I think?
Morin, yes. So Morin tries to go ahead and help us research the historical origins of the Warrior of Light, and tries to go ahead and find how far back that goes.
And it goes pretty far back, to which we see an mono-ass art image of the first Warrior of Light from Final Fantasy 1.
What is that, 89?
I think earlier, probably.
Probably, but they basically said the ancientest of times, the heroes who are strong and conquer great evils are the ones called Warriors of Light.
Yes.
Not necessarily the way that we contextualize them with Hydaelyn and Zodiark.
Yes, that is pretty much true. So probably even in the time of the ancients, there was a Warrior of Light of sorts.
Right.
So, anyway, while that happens, we get accosted by 3 little munchkins.
So they all are young kids who have heard Ardbert's story and also want to find their own ways to become Warriors of Light, but being too young, they don't know what they want to do.
The 2 boys basically figure they want to be fighters. The little girl, however, wants to become an apothecary to heal and help as best she can.
And so we go on side quests with Alphina and Alice to help these kids sort of do some self-discovery. And along the way, also, Alphino and Alice discover about how far they've grown.
Yes.
Since they started out in ARR.
Which, they actually have grown quite a lot. Mm-hmm. Remember, Alphino used to be a fucking little twerp.
Yeah, he used to be quite mouthy.
Yeah, and I'm going to be honest, ARR Alphino, you kind of want to put him in a locker.
Yeah.
But yeah, we see about how the twins have grown. And after we have kind of taught the kids what to do, Alize even teaches the 2 little boys some exercises to train on to work their stamina and strength up. Mm-hmm. We take a break and go to the lookout where we were prior to going to the Tempest and looking out on the area, to which Elidibus shows up for some reason. Mm-hmm. Seemingly drawn to us for some reason.
No. Not drawn to us. We go out to the outpost because we want to think about Ardbert. And then it's like, he's in Ardbert's body. I wonder if... And then Ardbert shows up thinking, did you just fucking...
summon me?
How dare?
Pretty much. So Elidibus is a little mad about that. He goes on a long tirade of stuff like saying that the end is nigh for you and your ilk. And then Graha shows up to try to interrupt the conversation. Oh, now I remember. The conversation was being like, Emet-Selch saw something in you. What was it?
I don't understand what he saw in you. And then Graha shows up and says, I do hope you're not planning to fight in my city. I don't want to have to clean up bits of Elidibus on you.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to pick up warriors of light off of my carpet, thank you.
Pretty much. To which Elidibus is like, fine, I'll leave. But not before fucking punching Graha in the gut. Just like he did Minfilia when they first met.
Right.
Which is, he's like, your soul's surprisingly dense. Curious. I wonder what you are.
To which Graha's like, alright, gut vibe check concluded. I have some news regarding our soul problem.
For starters, we have managed to create the crystals that will house the souls, to which you also notice that Graha is looking a little more crystally and glowy.
Yes. So, throughout side discussions with Beak Lug, they've determined that white auracite should be the right composition to go ahead and store the soul
into a vessel that can be transported across the rift by the warrior.
The problem is transporting the mind.
Basically, the memories would just diffuse if only the soul was put away.
And then trying to put the ether back, well, that doesn't really provide much.
Thankfully, the Allagans had a technology for transferring memories, which is basically how Graha inherited the ability to control the tower through Une and Doga's eyes.
But that is only available to Allagan royal blood.
Pretty much. So we gotta figure out a way to make the Exarch bleed.
Well, and as much as...
Metaphorically.
Still, they go ahead and they're still working on that. And they go check in on Thancred because Thancred also collapsed because, the soul process is wearing thin on everyone.
And it's starting with, because we saw it happen with Urianger when he tried, because we skipped over this, but when they were trying to go on the Bismarck, Urianger wanted to test his water walking ability so he didn't have to swim. He got lightheaded halfway through it and fell into the water.
And then poor old Thancred had to go swim in and pull him out.
Yes. And now Thancred has passed out, which I'm surprised it didn't happen the other way around, given that Thancred came first and Urianger second to the first.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless, Thancred's taking a bit of a break, and we decide to go back to the source, to take a look on their bodies to see how they're doing.
Yeah, and everyone's near catatonic.
Catatonic, cold as a corpse.
Yep.
And to which Tataru basically Kryl is pumping as much ether as she can into those bodies to keep them alive and going.
Yep.
As well as Matoya. And so Tataru thinks, why not give some ether to the other end?
In the form
of bread.
Not just any bread.
Archon loaf. A bread so utterly dense and tasteless, it has a whole fucking fish in it.
Yes.
It has a fish and fruits and vegetables. There is a video on YouTube of someone who actually tried to make Archon loaf.
Successfully. No, they successfully made Archon loaf. It is as dense and tasteless and terrible as they all remember it from their time
in Charlian.
In Charlian.
Yeah, because apparently in Charlian, cuisine is not much of a thing.
No, it is purely meant to give one nourishment and nothing more.
Yes, making sandwiches out of it. God.
Remember that in the recent Benny G animation, Urianger's meal was nothing but a loaf of Archon loaf.
Yep. Oh, God.
I now have context for the bread in a Final Fantasy XIV animation, which already was more layered than several layered cakes.
Yeah, especially considering we had to deal with both Moonbrita and Thancred being both of Urianger's partners.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about that relationship. We're going to get to that in a hot second.
But yeah, as Tataru's baking the bread, Rambros comes in, the guy from the Crystal Tower raids.
Who has to do a taste test to confirm, yes, absolutely horrible.
Exactly like Mother used to make. Pretty much. And so we take the bread back to the first. We give it to everyone. Reen's interested in trying it, and my initial thought was, oh, honey, no. No, your taste buds can't survive it. Just think of coffee biscuits. Just think of coffee biscuits.
I was about to say, imagine the world in which Urianger sneezed, and instead of Reen asking Guy out for coffee biscuits, she asked her out for Archon loaf.
Oh God, I'm pretty sure that relationship would have died.
The bad ending.
Oh God. But yeah, we deliver that, and everyone's like, "Why don't you give this to Y'shtola? She's still out in the Aniter, so she could probably use it." So we're like, "Okay, we'll go check on her," and she's collapsed.
Yep. Gotta go check on her. I'm fine. Quit worrying about me.
No, she is actually collapsed, and Elidibus shows...
Oh, right, that's right.
We try to check on her. Elidibus pops up in front of her and is like, "I'm taking this for a second, and I am putting you through a trial."
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So Elidibus is like, "I need to deal with you now, so I'm going to start by traumatizing you with all your past mistakes."
Right.
Start off by attacking your friends. Start off then by attacking the Knights of the Round.
And then just goes through an entire flashback of the entirety of the plotline thus far.
We start off in ARR, then we go to Heavensward. Then in Stormblood, we get to fight a Shadow of Xenos that even Elidibus could not control. This is a running joke.
Yep.
To which Arbert Elidibus is like, "Okay, I've had enough toying with you. Let's fight for real."
And even Ardbert Elidibus is like, "Really? I can't even put a dent into you?"
Oh God, what am I going to do? To which Y'shtola wakes up, frees herself from Elidibus's control, and reveals his true nature. That is the Heart of Zodiark, and therefore a primal. Dun dun dun!
Yeah, that suddenly makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah, it suddenly makes a bit more sense why he's constantly doing things in a very weird and obtuse fashion. He is literally listening to the voices and prayers of half a world's people. Mm-hmm. And Y'shtola even says, are you acting on your own, or are you acting on the voices of someone else at this point?
He can't even remember.
He just says, "Elidibus is my name and my duty. To keep balance between light and dark, and to rejoin the worlds for the sake of his brothers."
Right. So with Elidibus thoroughly spoiled and being completely upset, he pieces out to go ahead and still continue to enact his plan because he hasn't played all of his cards yet.
To which
Y'shtola says, "Okay, thank you for finding me. I still left my stuff back where I was stored. Wait here. Don't touch anything, and I'll come find you." To which we basically follow a trail of
crystals. Which we go, "Ooh, a piece of candy. Ooh, a piece of candy. Ooh, a piece of candy." Each one has a constellation on it and sings out with the voice of one of the members of the Convocation.
To which we go ahead and pick up a total of 13.
13. To which, once we have collected all 13, the old image of Hythlodaeus that we saw in 5.0 shows up and says, "How curious, are you collecting stars?" And he says, "There were 14 members of the Convocation. One had left, a traveler, an adventurer of sorts, who went out and did the right things. And while no crystal exists for this member, one was made in secret by someone. And so he gives it to us.
Mm-hmm.
An orange crystal with the symbol of the sun on it." He says, "And now it's back where it belongs." Ominous!
Yes. I also should mention, we didn't bring this up as much as we talked about Greek stuff in the past with the Asians. Hythlodaeus is apparently the name of an ancient king in charge of paradise.
That makes sense given future connotations.
That also comes up in metaphor.
Yeah. Yeah, it does too. Yeah.
So I found that out through Pat and Wooly, so that's the only reason I'm bringing this up again. But yes, so Hythlodaeus reminds us, don't eat them.
Yes.
But if you need to call on your friends,
there is a spell in this one that will gather the stars to you.
Yes. To which Hythlodaeus pieces out. Y'shtola is like, "What did I tell you?"
Pretty much. He says, "What were you doing?" And we're like, nothing. Don't worry about it.
Ignore the sounds of breaking crystal.
Oh, God. I remember that Benny G animation, and I'm like, oh, God, that's the worst audio. There are people who cannot stand the sound of smacking lips, and don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. It doesn't really affect me, but I'm worried for anyone who listens.
Yes, and we're telling them about the video in which it gratuitously does, not ice chewing, not like literal like rock breaking in mouth.
Ugh.
And again, Benny G animation. If we make one more reference, I'm pretty sure he owes us some of his YouTube money.
Maybe, but regardless, we then go back to meet up with our friends in Yulemoor, because that's where they've all kind of decided to meet up. And so we're like, we explain to what happened with Elidibus to the group.
Actually, we skipped 2 important scenes.
Oh?
Number 1, we forgot to mention the first time we dropped off Y'shtola in Slitherbow, she was cleaning up her study in which she was using, under which she had told us that she's eager to get back to her home in the Source.
To which Runar overheard the conversation.
Secondly, when we returned to Slitherbow the second time, as she's picking everything up and getting ready to leave, good old Runar makes his last-ditch attempt to convince...
That doesn't happen until after everything.
Oh, it doesn't? Okay.
No, that is near the end.
Okay, that is near the end. Okay.
Yeah, don't jump ahead, dude.
All right.
Basically, while we're in Yulemoor, the starfalls start to happen.
Again.
Again.
Only this time now Phantoms of Light start showing up as well.
Phantoms of Light start showing up, as well as the projection of Amarat, which is causing even more people to awaken to the Echo. Then we start seeing these images of light turn into warriors attacking the party. Urianger notices that the spell used to summon them is the same magic that Graha had used in our fight against Hades. We then realize something must be up at the Crystal Tower, and we gotta get there as fast as possible.
So China's authorizes the deployment of an airship for us, and thus begins the hero's trials.
The hero's gauntlet.
The hero's gauntlet, to which we basically have to fight our way from Amarang all the way back to Lakeland.
Yep.
Which is blocked by several road stops, which are thankfully unplugged by our friends between Twine, Yulemoor, and I think even the...
Ilmeg.
Ilmeg.
Yes. So what starts off is, as we're flying over, a dragoon comes down and knocks the airship out of the sky. We land in Amarang. We move our ways through. The trolley guys, as everyone refers to them as, brings Talos in to take care of the enemies and the roadblocks. To which our first boss is a spectral thief.
Yep.
And that guy always gets people. He jukes them because he will split into different directions and move the AoEs.
Yes.
Then Feoul shows up and shows us a warp path to Ilmeg, to which we go through and take care of things. Even the Lord of the Langsam Gate helps us by turning enemies into toads for us.
Which that was a very fun trip to see.
To which we continue on, and we have to fight a spectral necromancer, which I think that has only been a job in 5.
Yeah.
So we take care of that, and then we find our way a path through to Lakeland, and we make our way through. We keep pushing through. Our allies from the role quests actually come in to help us and fight.
And the more of which you do, the more of them pop up.
Well, I believe they all show up, but you actually get to see their names and stuff.
Okay, so they are generically named otherwise.
Yes.
Also,
there's a chance for Hildebrand to show up.
Sometimes. We didn't get it, unfortunately, for this one, but he does have apparently a chance to spawn.
Yes.
Much like in that one dungeon in the treasure dungeon you have to do in Stormblood.
Oh, really?
I thought so. There was one, because that's the one with the evil spirits. I thought that one also he has a chance to show.
No, I think what you're referring to is the Palace of the Dead.
Oh, he has a chance to show up in Palace of the Dead?
There are characters that you have encountered that have died that have a chance to show up in Palace of the Dead.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, Teleji Adeleji can show up down there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I thought you were referring to that.
No, I wasn't.
Were you referring to Heaven on High?
No, I'll have to go back and check later to see what it was, but I could have sworn that Hildebrand shows up in 2 dungeons.
No, I don't know.
Anyway, so the last part of Hero's Gauntlet involves you teaming up with your fellow Virtue Slayers and making it to the final confrontation, which is against a spectral berserker.
Yeah, and that one's a really hard fight.
Yeah, that one was definitely difficult. You had to jump into holes to avoid getting hit by AoEs.
By AoEs, they would also get stack markers on everyone, and you had to hide in rock piles in order to tank the damage.
Yeah.
Because everyone got a stack marker. Do not stack the stacks.
Yep.
That will kill you. But yeah, we take care of that. More enemies keep trying to show up, and so the Scions stay behind to hold them off while we make our way through. We end up finding Graha and Beck-Lug out in the forest, having been kicked out of the tower, basically, by Elidibus.
Yes, who realizes that, well, if they want to go ahead and outnumber me, I'll just outnumber them instead.
Pretty much. And so we see that Graha is crystallizing at an alarming rate because basically Elidibus, we see through an echo that Elidibus had gotten hold of the one successful crystal that Graha had tested that held his memories.
That held his memories and uses his blood as the conduit.
Which allows basically anyone to access the crystal tower.
And so Elidibus is pulling every single warrior of light he can possibly find in the multiverse and basically extracting their spirit to throw at us.
It's not even their souls. It's their fighting spirit to combat darkness, pretty much.
Right. Well, because that's all he cares about pulling through. If he wanted to try and pull over their spirit perfectly, it would require more time, as Graha notes. But since he's only pulling the fighting spirit and really that fervor, that's all he's pulling. And that's why they are the husks that they are.
To which we basically... Graha says, I have sealed him in the crystal tower so he can't get out, but that's not really helping the problem.
Yes, we need to go deal with him. We have to... Lena wants to get some venting emotions out because she has some unresolved issues with the Crystal Exarch, but the Crystal Exarch says his goodbyes and tries his best to resolve that angst.
Yes, because Lena is basically his daughter, or granddaughter, depending on how you...
Granddaughter, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, because I keep thinking... The thing that gets me is Viera can live up to 300 plus years.
Yes.
Lena is like mid-20s, early 30s.
Yes.
That fucks me up because I swear she seems like a person that would have been raised by the Exarch from an early age.
I'm pretty sure he mentions like we celebrated a 10th birthday.
Yes.
So at the very least, he has been since she has been a child.
Yes.
And yes, the V's are incredibly long-lived, longer lived than the presumably long-lived Elizins.
Yeah, because I believe the Elizins live up to be 120, 150 at most.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, we get to the Crystal Tower. We make our way up. The old music for the Crystal Tower starts playing. And Graha starts further succumbing to the crystal transformation because he's basically paying the price for using too much Crystal Tower power.
Right. And basically says, look, if you have to go ahead and deal with him alone, just do it. Leave the rest to me. And he stays behind to hold off another swath of light warriors coming in as we go ahead and confront Elidibus in the Seat of Sacrifice.
Before the Seat of Sacrifice begins, however, we confront him on basically everything, and he starts breaking down at the fact that he can't even remember who he promised he would save the world from. Mm-hmm. And so he freaks out. He then channels a whole bunch of warriors' spirits into himself and uses that to transform into the actual warrior of light of old.
Yes.
Which is such a good reference.
He even references that in his past, he would play both sides in order to try and guarantee the outcome.
He would play the Warrior of Light. He would play the villain. He would play anything it took to maintain balance and get the job done. Mm-hmm. And it's put a toll on him. As he then tries to attack us preemptively, the attack doesn't go through as the orange crystal we got starts to activate. I am the stars in the dark. I am the shepherd to the stars in the dark. For yours is the 14th seat. The seat of
Azim.
It's not Azim, it's Azim.
Azim.
Yeah. So yeah, it turns out that the Warrior of Light, or Darkness, is the 14th seat of the Convocation.
And is a shard of the Asian Azam.
Yes. You keep saying the name wrong.
That's how I read it. I'm sorry.
It's Azim. Azim, 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 Azim. That's how they say it in future.
I know, but they also said it's Rugadin. Just because they say it doesn't mean they're correct.
Don't say things wrong. I'm going to come after you.
Venetian, as I used to say to our friend Legend when it came to Vancian magic.
Oh.
Sometimes I do it on purpose. Sometimes it just happens. I am never going to let you know which it is.
Regardless, we are
the seed of sacrifice.
The seed of sacrifice.
Okay. Can I just describe how this battle plays out? Just the broad strokes before we get into the details.
Go ahead.
So it starts out by you tanking a hit that brings you down to 1 HP.
Yes. He also puts Living Dead on you.
He also puts Living Dead on you, meaning you have to heal yourself back up to full or you die again. Now then, when you draw him down to half health, initially,
yes,
he says, bollocks to this, I'm going to drag you down to the void in which we Asians spend, where we have to wait every time we have to reconstitute. And I'm going to drop you off here just to say, fuck you.
Yes.
Which leads to probably the worst QuickTime event we've ever had, active time event you've ever had to, active time maneuver you've ever had to pull, in which it is nothing but straight mashing for 15 seconds.
Oh yeah, you gotta work that thumb. And
if you fail, you go all the way back to the start.
Yep.
Now, if you pass,
you get
Elidibus goes back to the Crystal Tower, presumably believes he is won. But the crystal begins to activate, and you get brought back. A summoner circle appears around you.
Well, it's not you that shows up. An ancient appears.
An ancient one appears.
Snaps their fingers, and we all get summoned back, as he then walks away with a dainty swish of his hand.
The Stone of Azan has...
Azim!
The Stone of Azim has a charm in which it allows the holder to be summoned back by a specter of Emet-Selch.
Yes.
As Emet-Selch and Azan were the closest.
Yeah.
Or so claimed.
Yes, because basically, Emet-Selch is the one who secretly made the crystal and gave it to Hythlodaeus as basically a way of...
As an insurance policy.
Basically, as an insurance policy if he died. You know what I just realized?
What?
The entirety of Amara is one long, convoluted suicide note.
Yep.
Ain't that fucked up?
Yep.
But yeah, regardless, we get summoned back.
And now the actual fight can begin.
By Elidibus doing a Limit Break 4, to which the tank has to do a Limit Break 3 at the right time to survive it.
How was that having that responsibility?
My heart was in my fucking throat. That was the first time I had ever done it successfully, because surprisingly, I got pulled into another run of this before because of the Mogtome event, and I fucked it up badly. And then we kept getting stuck on the key mash. It was annoying because no one knew what they were doing. I just fucking left.
Oh, God.
But yeah, basically, you have to survive that. And then throughout the rest of the fight, he will start doing limit breaks of different levels.
Different levels and different classes.
Yes, he will summon, I believe the first thing he does is he summon a white and black mage to do a twin cast meteor, which means you have to start soaking meteor towers and doing that. He will do a limit break level 2, which is the gun, which is the range DPS limit break, where you have to split into 2 line AoE stack markers.
Yes, to each take 1 line of the blasts.
Yes.
He also will do. I forget what the DPS limit break is.
Oh, well, he does the Dragoon Dive.
Yeah, he does the Dragoon Dive. He also summons other classes. He will have Dragoons do Dragon Sweeps with 1, and have Dark Knights do
Salted Earth.
Do Salted Earth that encroaches, and you have to keep dodging those.
He will also summon a copy of Bahamut for the summoners to then wipe through 1 half of the room. He will then do, as a level 3, a really terrifying meteor move where I believe 3 or 4 characters each get the biggest meteor AoE I have ever seen in my life.
Yeah, you basically have to go to the corners to not try and overlap on those.
Yeah, otherwise that is a guaranteed wipe.
Yes, and he still has laser swords etched into the earth, doing widespread blasts all throughout the area.
He will channel his sword with either fire or ice, and will either do you have to get inside his donut or get away from him.
And you have to either be moving or staying still, depending on the element.
If it's fire, you're staying still. If it's ice, move. And then he will do a light one where he will carve a shape into the ground, and you got to avoid where the shape is made. Mm-hmm. In all, that is a fight that I love thematically. Overall, I don't want to run it a bunch of times.
It's exhausting to run multiple times back to back.
Yeah. Ugh. I love it. That fight is an anxiety attack waiting to happen.
Honestly, though, comparing this to the patch quest for Heaven's Ward, I do consider them on par thematically. And mechanically, obviously, it's going to be more dense because they've had a lot more time to work with the system now.
Yes.
So, honestly, to the people before who were saying, like, oh, old patch content is too easy, we need to go. They appropriately ramp it up as someone who has not done extremes on at level. I would say that that the challenges thus far have been appropriately scaling.
Yeah, I have done 1 extreme by myself. Mm-hmm. That is Valley Garmanda for Dawn Trail. It is very detailed, dense, but there is a pattern to it. Mm-hmm. You can follow it easily. And I have gotten through all of the mechanics. I just didn't have enough DPS to beat it. Mm-hmm. So it's a good fight. Regardless, Seed of Sacrifice is one hell of a fight, and a great capstone to 5.3.
At the end, Elidibus is still trying to fight despite this, even though he knows that he's virtually already lost.
Yes, but he gets caught in a trap set by Graha.
Because the Crystal Tower is basically one giant aetheryte.
It's not an aetheryte, it's an auracite.
An auracite.
Yeah, it is a giant white auracite that he will use to have Elidibus soul and all and trap him in it. To which we work together with him as he's slowly crystallizing even further. Mm-hmm. We fight him, and we turn Elidibus basically back into his tiny little ancient self. And we just basically bring the crystals that we had gathered to him, and he finally starts remembering who he is a little bit at the very end.
Right.
He starts crying, and he laments that the rains have ceased, and we have been graced with another beautiful day, but no one is there to see it. Mm-hmm. He passes on and gets absorbed into the tower, to which Graha has finally been spent.
Yep.
He is going to be turned into a crystal rock at this point. The tower has taxed him to the point where he can't survive here anymore. So, as a last, he asks a favor of us and says, "Will you take us on your next journey?"
And of course we say yes.
Of course. He puts his memories are already in the crystal, so he stands up and strikes a pose in the center of the arena, saying that his body will serve as a testament to the trials that came before and a beacon of hope for the future. Mm-hmm. He puts his soul into the crystal and crystallizes completely.
Yep.
And that ends that moment. The follow-up is basically... The following is basically wrap-up, where everyone's basically ready to say, we're ready to go. We just have to say our goodbyes to everyone.
Alisei goes ahead and says goodbye to Hulric, who is paying a visit to Tesline's grave.
Yep, he can remember the words that she said to him right before she turned, which is really poignant. And then we go to see Alphino, who is dealing with a grieving Julia Chai.
Yes, sadly his spine also does not get broken.
No, it doesn't, but she does say things that, honestly, whenever I see them, I just start tearing up because as someone who's adopted, her words really, really hit home.
Julia is absolutely an overwhelmingly doting mother and definitely hits quite hard. Although apparently my jokes about the Chais being allowed to adopt the twins are premature.
Pretty much, they were premature at the start.
Well, I'm being told that I'm going to find out why they can't claim adoption yet.
Well,
adoption yet.
Yes.
So that's what I'm being told. So, but Alphino says that, of course, pass along messages through the Warrior of Darkness. All things will still come good.
Yep. To which then we go to Slitherbow, where Y'shtola says, "What are you talking about? I've already said my goodbyes, and I've already packed up. Why do you think I'm lazy? The only person I haven't said goodbye to is Runar."
And then Runar's right behind her with the flower.
Yeah. And basically confesses to her. Poor boy.
Yes.
Y'shtola's like, "Runar, please. You know I can't stay."
Not in front of everyone.
Yeah, and he says, I jest, at least in part. So, and then Y'shtola says, you can stand on your own, but if the need ever arises, you can call on me for help. Since she knows that there's a way to traverse across the rift, she will find a way, and she will come back to her cat boyfriend.
And he is more than satisfied with that.
Yes, he picks her up and starts hugging her and bouncing her around like he did when she first came out of the rift again.
Yep.
But yeah, Runar says his goodbyes, and then we head back to the Crystarium, where Thancred says his goodbyes to Reen.
Mm-hmm.
And he says he's proud of her, and that she will carry on Minfilia's will and keep this realm safe. To which Lena and the rest of the Crystarium just suddenly waltz in to say their goodbyes.
Yep.
Oh, fuck, I forgot to mention, there was another thing in Ilmeg. Oh, God, I forgot the most important one.
Which one?
With Seto.
Oh, yes. We did kind of mention this with when we were doing the talk about soul crystals with Silva's side quest, but there is a point at which part of the business that we do is giving Seto back Ardbert's crystal, in which because Ardbert is a part of us, we can actually go ahead and present ourselves as Ardbert to Seto, but we just have him close his eyes.
We haven't closed his eyes, and we kind of just let Ardbert take control for a moment, and my God, that's another tearjerker. Fuck, I'm tearing up just thinking about it.
It is incredibly cathartic after having all of the character moments and all of the build-up throughout the main story quest. So I do think that it's incredibly well done in that regard. Yeah,
saying goodbye to a pet and the pet actually saying, I think I'll go on a little adventure myself. And so that happened. And now we come back to the Crystarium where we say our goodbyes. Lena says a few words to pass on to the Exarch, to which we say we'll tell him word for word as she tears up. Mm-hmm. We then make our way into the tower, and with the help of the Porksy, transfer everyone's souls and memories into the crystals.
And so we head back to the Rising Stones, deliver the aura sites back to their appropriately labeled bodies.
I hope those crystals were fucking labeled.
Well, that would be very awkward for Y'shtola to wake up in Thancred's body.
Oh God, I'm pretty sure she'd kill herself on the spot.
Nonetheless, we have 6 crystals and 5 scions in the Rising Stones.
We got one more, so we make our way to the Crystal Tower to wake up our cat boyfriend.
And so the party skips over back to Mordona, in which everyone is having some lunch. Tataru refurbishes some materials, some outfits from Shadowbringers for at least
Urianger, Thancred, and Y'shtola. So they're all in their new get-ups with the thanks of Feoul, who delivered the blueprints basically from the first
to Tataru. Meanwhile, the twins maintain their get-ups from Stormblood.
Yeah, and Y'shtola is not Y'shtola. Alize is having a fucking fourth wall breaking moment where she says, "I know we haven't taken up new martial arts, and I've never had one. I've never been one for appearances, but I can't help feeling we're lacking some personal development."
Meanwhile, Kryle's like, "Can you give it a rest? I'm trying to get back all the ether I spent bringing you guys back."
Yeah, to which she goes for a slice of Archon loaf, is dismissive of it, and says, "Tataru, can you just get me something sweet, please?" To which she goes off, and then everyone's
return to the group as we bring the newest recruit to the Scions of the Seventh Dawn.
G'raha is back, saying that he has personally put a special barrier back up on the Crystal Tower, and it's not as powerful as the one that he had when Beck Lug helped steal it. But if anyone tries to get into the tower, he'll know about it. And so G'raha is free to be a member of the Scions of the Seventh Dawn.
Having restored his memories from his time through multiple timelines, and now back in the fresh body that we left him in back in ARR.
Yes. So he has both his mind and soul from that. So technically he's rejoined. He's 8 parts rejoined now instead of 7.
Yep.
So he's back, and it kind of cuts away as to be honest, if it weren't for the following cutscene to happen, I wouldn't have been surprised if the game ended there.
Right. It just starts off with a miscellaneous trouble. Monsters are attacking us again, and
Alize jumps out to the rescue.
And to which Alphino is like, "Must we?" And he takes the sensible route down the stairs.
Yes, and to which everyone else does the same. To which Y'shtola's like, "I'll be back. I'll join in once I've had my tea." And thus Urianger goes, "Thus the world was shrouded in darkness," because she's being too lazy.
Yes, but she does go ahead and give Thancred a refuel on his bullets since Reen is not around anymore.
Yeah, she'll be providing that job from now on, and
then we cut
to Garlemald.
To Garlemald, in which civil war reigns, chaos blossoms, and Xenos isn't even hard.
Nope. To which, we forgot to mention this, but in a couple of the posts of 5.1 and 5.2, he has gotten himself a new lackey, to which we get the full reveal of him at the end of 5.3, to be an Ascian in Asahi's body.
Although all of the unsundered Ascians have died, there are still sundered Ascians that lurk about.
And this one, Fandaniel, or as I like to call him, Damn Daniel,
who decides to possess Asahi, of all people,
because of the money he can use to fund the Civil War,
and is playing the role of Xenos' jester, promising him, "Oh, we will get you the bloodshed you desire."
He's his fluffer, basically.
Yes.
If you don't know what that means,
don't look it up.
Don't look it up.
Nonetheless, Xenos wants one thing. He just isn't there yet.
He wants one thing. He wants a fight with the Warrior of Light, and he is going to raise hell, literally, to get it.
Which is all perfectly fine for Fandaniel.
Yes.
Because he has schemes and plans.
He has plans and schemes. But yeah, so what do you think of Fandaniel so far?
Okay, have you ever seen DMC4? Have you ever seen the dramatic Dante scene from that game?
Yes, I have.
That's basically what I have an understanding of Fandaniel to be right now. He is basically that to 11. He is not the old theater gay that Emet-Selch was. He is the campy theater gay of the new generation.
Yes.
That is basically how I'm seeing Fandaniel right now. I don't know how powerful he is or what exactly his schemes are, but I do know that he's going to make Xenos' dream come true, and that in of itself is enough of a concern.
Yes, that's pretty apt. That is pretty apt. So, yeah, that is pretty much the patch quests. However, we still have one more thing to talk about.
The Eden quest line.
The Eden quest line, which takes place in 5.1 and 5.2. Then once you do everything in 5.3, the last raid unlocks. I had to kind of finagle Leo to go through this in a specific way. So, again, I'm sorry for that.
Right. So the whole point of it is at the end of the second ring of second wing, it basically is supposed to be coincidental with the start of 5.3.
Yes.
And for that reason, certain events can and cannot occur. It's part of the reason why some of the events that we retold them were out of order because of that. And really, for our purposes, it's just easier to go through each storyline straight through than trying to intersperse it in the actual order that we did them.
Yes. So, basically, the Eden raids start off with Reen basically sensing something out in the empty, the vast empty waste of the world after the Flood of Light.
Right. And it was hinted at the end of 5.0 that this was going to be part of the expansion because these quests, this dungeons, this trial series basically deals with reviving the empty.
Yes. So basically, we find what everyone seems to colloquially call Eden, the first Sin Eater, which apparently is unactivated in a stasis mode, and apparently there's some way for us to actually get in and fight it.
Right. And so so it starts off with fighting Eden Prime.
Which usually is the last thing you do when fighting a primal of sorts. Because in the Coils of Bahamut, you fought Bahamut Prime. In Alexander, you fought Alexander Prime at the end. And so you kind of expect the Prime to be the last thing to fight.
Not in this case. And so you're actually fighting it first, and we are able to awaken it. And with Urianger and Thancred's help, we basically surmise that we can use Eden to basically undo the damage that has occurred in the area.
Yes. So the first raid is Resurrection, Eden's Gate Resurrection against Eden Prime. What did you think of that fight?
Honestly, it was okay. I think I always consider the first fights to these be palate cleansers. These are just warm-ups to get you adjusted to what you're going to be expected to do later on.
Yeah, because the first fight is relatively simple. The only really interesting thing about it is the whole giant cutscene, which is based... I'm just going to say it right now. The Eden raids are nothing but Final Fantasy VIII references. The whole interactions with characters are very romance-heavy, and I think they were actually supposed to be even heavier connotations than were already put in, but had to dial it back.
Right.
Regardless, Resurrection is a simple fight where the really only notable part is the giant cutscene that happens where you get blasted by a planet into a black hole.
Yes.
Yeah. Into a galaxy that becomes a black hole.
There you go.
So yeah, that's the big thing. And as soon as we start getting Eden up and running, we're suddenly attacked by someone coming in, riding a Void Scent of all things, which should not be because Void Scent don't really attack the shards. They only interact with the source.
Right.
So this knight of sorts is riding a Void Scent and fighting us. Right. So that begins Eden's Gate descent against the Void Walker.
Right.
This fight is a little tricky if you don't understand the time mechanic with it.
Right.
So, what did you think of this fight?
I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was too difficult to get a hold of, but I do know that it can be somewhat of an adjustment.
Yeah, because the ability is called Spell in Waiting, where stacks or spreads or even a gaze mechanic will be put on a character, and you got to watch for the timer on the status effects.
Right.
And see when is that going to proc.
And then it gives you, I think, at least either a 3-second or a 5-second warning before it actually goes off.
It's a 5-second warning.
Okay.
So it goes 5, 4, 3, 2, boom.
Yeah, but I do think that it wasn't too difficult for me to get a hold of.
Yes. But basically, we defeat the Void Walker. The knight is still there, tries to fight back, but collapses because something is affecting them.
Right, and then we do find out that it's a girl underneath that mask.
Yes, and so Thancred and Urianger basically keep her under watch and see how she recovers. Meanwhile, we go ahead and start our efforts to restore balance to the empty, starting with water.
Right. And so the way that it works for the most part is Urian Jace locates, wants us to imagine primals of the associated element to best bring out the element of the associated ether. We fight them. That ether gets then dispersed throughout the land.
Pretty much. That is basically the mechanics of it. We go to an area that's supposed to be high in that area, that stuff. We use Eden to draw out that specific ether and beat it, spread it out, proceed. So the first one we fight is water, so Eden's Gate Inundation, Leviathan.
This is the one that I think that I enjoyed a lot because of the destroying platform situation.
Yeah, it's really fun. And it's got a tank buster with the tank. You got to move the tank to the side and you get blasted on it. Also, you got to watch the sides because Tidal Wave will knock you off the platform if you're not careful.
Or if you forget to go ahead and do arm's length / surecast.
Yep. Or if you're a warrior, inner release.
Yes.
So, yeah. It's a fun fight. Relatively easy. When we were doing this, the Mogtone was really promoting the Eden raids, so we could get into these relatively quickly.
Right, and I think I don't think they were initially on when we started, but then when the event came out, we did additional raids to help out another friend of ours, and that actually went fairly well.
Yeah.
The next one after this is Titan, and oh boy, Titan.
Yeah, this one.
So, mountain bike ATV is no joke.
Yes.
I think my biggest issue with this one was so he has an attack in which he does 2 ATV moves depending on what form he takes. If he's in a corner lane, he will go all around the lanes and do circles.
Yes.
If he is in a center lane, he will basically do a push knockback attack. So you want to be on the side that has 2 lanes behind you instead of 1.
He also has 2 variations of this. Either he will take the stuff off his back and create 2 arms, where he will attack the sides and the safe in the middle is safe. Mm-hmm. The middle line is safe.
Right.
And then you got to move out of the middle line because that's about to explode. The other one is the ATV. It's actually a 4x4 grid for the most part. And so he will go onto the third of one of these. And so he will it's basically a knockback. It'll push you back.
Yeah, it's a center line.
It's a center line knockback. You cannot be on the side that has only one square.
Right.
Otherwise, you will get knocked off.
Right. I felt like at least for some of the encounters on that particular one, I felt that my reactions were lacking, and I'm not sure whether it was just me.
Because I think it was because you were healer for that.
Yeah, I was healer for all the Eden raids, but my issue was just more of I'm not sure if I wasn't able to see. I needed more draw distance, or if it was just my reactions were poor.
I'm going to be honest. I think it was your reaction because the raids from here on are going to really be pushing your reaction time a lot more. So you're going to have to practice that.
I feel like that's going to be the situation. I'm going to have some partial complaints, in part because, and this is my issue about online games, period.
Lag.
Is that, well, not just lag, but it's also going to be about, so you know about how the server inputs with the...
Yeah, it's the server tick.
Yeah, the server tick. That also plays a factor into input lag.
That's what the snapshot is for. That's what the puddle AoEs are.
Yeah, the problem is that at least the way that I've experienced them sometimes they can be very generous, sometimes they can be very unfair. And at least for me, when we were doing Titan, it was more on the unfair side. I have gotten away with some stupid bullshit in the past.
Yeah.
And just... At least for me, it has not been on a day instance. It has been on a boss instance. And that's the only reason I say that. I'm probably wrong. It is very much biased, but that's my opinion.
I'm going to tell you right now, the final wing of the second tier of the Arcadian makes you move fast. Mm-hmm. He starts off fast. He gets faster. Mm-hmm. But also the arena gets smaller, so you have to... adjust.
Well, the thing is that if
you have less to adjust,
right? That's what I'm saying. That's fair. it's difficult if you're going to have fast reaction times, and either it gets larger or you don't have that much time to react to begin with.
Right.
But because then the game becomes, well, you were out of position to begin with, and then it becomes a question of how. It's part of the thing of how you play the game versus how the game wants you to play it.
Fair enough. But regardless, Titan is a heck of a fight, and honestly, if you're having trouble with a fight's mechanics, I recommend looking up a guide to know where you're supposed to stand at a specific time. I will tell you right now, because this is slightly spoilers for the Arcadian raid. The third one of the Arcadian Cruiserweight tier, I had to go through it 7 times. I wiped 7 times to that fight.
Yeah.
No one knew the mechanics.
Yeah.
Even at the end, I wasn't sure. I wasn't aware of what I was doing wrong. I will tell you this right now to spare you a little trouble. The boss has a gaze mechanic that will petrify you. Before that, he will summon ads. You have to defeat the ads and stand behind their bodies to get out of line of sight. Then you will survive. Otherwise, you will get petrified and the next attack will insta-kill you.
I see.
Basically, that was the only thing that was getting me that entire fight. I had no idea what I was doing right or wrong until I figured that out when I read a guide for it. Because even as we were workshopping it in the raid group, we weren't sure if it was look away or look away and move. Yeah, so it was rough. Regardless, we beat it, but God, I think that took 50 minutes.
I think, my other point would be, Final Fantasy XIV has been revising it to the point of like, okay, we're going to tell you what to expect so that you at least understand the lingo when you see the glowing symbol.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's a little bit of a game of guess the punch.
Yeah.
That I think this was more of just a generalized MMO thing that they purposely have to hide as a point of the difficulty. There's a thing in Mario Maker, and yeah, this is a weird crossover. There's a thing in Mario Maker levels that's called knowledge checkpoints, in which it is not something that you would know through the level, but something you would know through playing those types of games, or in this case, these types of bosses in general.
Yeah.
And so it would be something like, say for example, like Behemoth, and you seeing him drop comets.
Right.
And it would be something like, wait, why are the bodies not disappearing? And then you seeing an unavoidable AoE coming in, it's like, oh.
Yeah. Like in Crystal Tower, Curtain Call from Amon, he's basically just standing there and a bar is filling up, and you're seeing there are blocks of ice that have encapsulated some characters. Oh shit, I need to get behind those.
Yep.
Yeah. Basically, it was one of those, oh shit, I need to get behind these things, but it wasn't telegraphed as well as I could have. A lot of people actually figured it out faster than I did, but I'm a bit on the slow side for uptake.
Okay.
It takes repeated fights, and this is me because I do these fights over and over and over again.
Right.
I eventually learn the pattern and the dance and stuff like that.
Right.
So I kind of know how Titan works because I've done it a bunch of times.
Right.
And that's kind of the point of some of these. You're not going to get it right on your first time.
Right. Although and this would be my, I guess, counter objection to that would be is that's Stone Sky and Stone Sea and Sky.
Yeah. Well, that's supposed to test your DPS.
Well, it's also supposed to allow you to avoid damage protocols as well, because what it's supposed to be, that's your training program before doing extremes, and that's why they don't unlock until after you clear a wing.
Right.
So I would also, like, if you're trying to grind up mid wing, yes, then that's absolutely doing it again, and there's no substitute for real experience. But if you're trying to do pinpoint and get it down to more precision level, Sea, Stone, and Sky, which I believe almost no one uses.
Pretty much. It's mainly only used to see if your DPS is good enough to clear the boss. Mm-hmm. But regardless, we kind of got off topic a little bit.
But yes, with the restoration of water and earth, aether to the area, it starts to look a little bit more habitable.
Yes, we see a crystal has manifested that's showing the elements, and there's red earth, there's water. It's showing that there's life, that there's potential to fix this. But as it turns out, it puts a major taxing toll on Rei'tan, who's basically piloting this thing because she's the goddamn Oracle of Light and she can control light things. So we take a break, and then we come back for the second wing, Eden's Verse,
in which our mystery guest from the Voidwalker has awoken and has more questions than they do answers.
It's a girl by the name of Gaia, who apparently hails from Yulemore, and she has been plagued by something she calls the Fairy, who has seemingly messed with her head and her memories of everything, because she doesn't even remember anything. She thinks she remembers her name because all she remembers is the name Gaia. And basically, Urianger and Thancred summarize that much like Reen being the Oracle of Light, she must be her counterpart as the Oracle of Darkness.
And she certainly acts like it, the way that she's almost an antithesis to Reen.
Oh yeah, she's goth as all hell, and God, I love her design.
Bossy and broody, and yeah, that's definitely someone's type.
Yeah, she is a bit bitchy and at first, and like she can't stand Urianger talking, and she can barely tolerate Reen. But for starters, we basically bring her back to the Empty with us to see if we can, if doing this will help jog her memory or something of the like. Maybe a spark will happen. Speaking of spark, the first thing we decide to awaken this time is Ramuh
with lightning ether.
Yes,
which Mantar,
yeah. We had referred to Ramuh as half man, half beard, and another half beard. For some reason, this fight has less beard than before.
Right, and he is now a centaur and does basically similar to his earlier gimmick, lightning bolts that you have to absorb to gain lightning resistance, but not too much that you get a debuff instead. Yes,
and basically you need to avoid the towers that he lands, because the taller tower will cause a giant AoE that is basically an insta-kill.
And also he has his horses rampaging throughout in rows as well.
I'm pretty sure, canonically I think, at this point it's confirmed that the Warrior of Light either has brain damage or he's just remembering these fights wrong.
I'm pretty sure this is just Reen trying to interpret the events occurred. It's also possible that, remember, because we're all drawing on different inspirations of Final Fantasy, the ether may not be playing well. It's one person's ether as opposed to many.
Yeah, it's one person's different idea of a primal rather than a collective's view of that god.
Exactly.
So I'm willing to bet the Warrior of Light is drawing on not only Ramuh, but also the instance that you can actually do out in the field with Ixion.
Yep.
So that's also something that's probably in his mind when he's thinking of lightning energies and stuff. And then Reen's interpretation of said interaction is just being muddled.
Horseman.
Yeah, Horseman.
Still, as we're going ahead and restoring ether to the world, Reen is trying to make friends.
Yeah, she's trying to make friends with Gaia, and it's going along roughly.
It's going as well as coffee biscuits.
She tries to invite Gaia for coffee biscuits, and Gaia's not having any of this. She's focused on trying to figure out what the hell's wrong with everything. And then Urianger and Thancred are saying, all right, well, for now, let's try to focus on the other elements.
Right, and it's like, we could try bringing out two elements at once.
Well, the thing is, Gaia is unimpressed with the effects of lightning on the area.
Right.
And so, in order to cause rain to happen, which is what everything feels like is about to happen, they need fire and wind to unlock. And then Gaia's like, well, why not just bring out both? And at first, everyone's like, what the fuck are you talking about? We're having the Warrior of Light fight these things, and they're already super powerful. Do you think he can handle two on his own?
Yes.
Apparently, yes, because that is Eden's Verse Fur, where you fight both Garuda and Ifrit. And I'm going to be honest, this is the worst incarnation of Ifrit I have ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, it's older. It's the older versions of Ifrit, so I understand that.
It's the older versions of Ifrit. I gotta be honest, the more bestial versions are much better.
Yes, speaks to their inner furries.
Yes, I know. Regardless, you fight Garuda and Ifrit. You first fight Garuda, who does cone AoEs and bubble stacks where you have to have two people in each stack and then get out of them before a blade comes out.
Right.
Then she leaves, Ifrit comes in, and he does punches and soccer.
Yep.
And then the two are like, fuck this, let's fuse together and beat this guy.
And thus yields the Flame Wingman fight.
The Flame Wingman fight. Rataspaka. Ratapaksa. Ugh, that's a fucking mouthful.
Yes, it is, but it combines both of them and makes you do both of their combinations together.
And it is a fucking mess. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a mess, but I remember that was more of a mess because our bard kept floor tanking.
Oh, yeah. I believe I was healing for this fight.
No, I was still healing.
No, sorry. I'm conflating my time with our friend Mel.
Yeah, the one that we were doing, I was not just healing in our original instance, I also healed when we were doing it with my friend Mama Nile.
Ah.
So that's why the two times were merging there. But the last time we did this one, the bards were floor tanking, and it was a little bit, we were just low on DPS in that one. That's why it took so long.
Yeah, it was a pretty rough fight, but I get it. It to be honest, it's my least favorite of the Eden fights, if I'm perfectly honest.
Which is funny because I actually enjoyed it a lot more.
Wow. Okay, but yeah, I get it. Regardless, we take care of them, and rain happens in the empty.
Right, which is quite nice. And so all we need to do is pull out ice, except a massive horde of Sin Eaters has somehow returned.
Well, basically what happens is Gaia starts doubting herself, and she goes up to the top of the Eden to kind of clear her head, to which the fairy inside her starts to react violently and tries to do something to her that we're not sure at the moment.
Right.
She fights it off. It manifests as an idol of darkness, which is summoning a whole bunch of tiny little wing-bird Sin Eaters to toss and try to attack everything with. Mm-hmm. To which, that is Eden-verse Iconoclasm. And that's a bit of a rough fight.
Yeah, that one's working with portals. It does a bunch of beam attacks which go down vertically and then will come out horizontally in different spurts.
Yeah.
Depending on the colors that the attacks go into, that will dictate their positions coming out.
Yeah, so if it goes through the blue first, it's going to come out the blue on the other side.
Right. On top of that, you also have to align yourself with the opposite color, with the opposite or the same color?
Opposite.
Opposite. So if it is a...
So your ether will shift either to light or darkness, and you will have to basically take a light hit or take a dark hit, depending on your color.
You'll need to take the opposite hit, though, otherwise it's going to be an insta-kill.
And it's going to do it twice. So you'll go through you'll take the damage through the portals the first time, and then the secondary portals will activate, and you'll have to take the hit then.
Right.
And that is a brain teaser.
Yes, it is. It requires a little bit more spatial math than you would like, but I honestly it is a little rough, but it's not the worst.
No, but anyway, after that, we take care of that. Gaia is having an emo moment where she's lost in the darkness, wondering what's happening. Reen calls out to her, saying, "You were promised to go out to Coffee Biscuits with me." And she wakes up saying, "I agreed to nothing of the sort."
Yes. So we go ahead and Gaia manages to get back up. We go ahead and need to restore just the last element of ice.
To which Reen gets a stupid idea.
She wants to be the one to channel whatever we're summoning.
Because we had mentioned about Shiva, who was basically Ysael channeling a primal through her body.
Right. And so she wanted to know what that felt like. And so she wanted to, since that's the way that we remember that being channeled, she volunteers to go ahead and bring the catalyst out. Thus bringing us to the end of the second wing.
Eden's verse Refulgence, which, oh god, this fight is peak. This fight is peak.
Yeah, you could not stop talking about this one.
Yeah, for starters, the music for this fight is good. The fight itself is really fun. She actually shifts between ice and light element because she is the Oracle of Light.
Right.
So when she transforms into the light version of herself, you have to look away from her because she's going to flashbang you.
Right.
Because she's
changing.
She's changing clothes.
Yes.
And so when she redresses, she causes a flashbang, and then she will either do an axe or a scythe kick, which will mean either moving out or getting in.
Right. And then does more attacks. She reshifts into her ice phase, which causes ice physics to occur on the floor, and then she will do the same outside inside kick again gambit.
Well, it's not kicks. It's either she's going to attack behind her or do a wide cone in front of her.
But either way, you have to use with ice physics to make sure that you're within the right range to either tank the hit or not fall off the edge.
Then she will do her version of Shiva circles, which involves both spread AoEs and tracking AoEs, which is a bit of a mess.
And even when you think you have it done, she says, nope, I'm going to go ahead and encapsulate you all in ice.
Well, first off, what she does is she says she will restore light to the realm, and you have to basically do a little mini thing where you have to protect this crystal from getting...
right, the mini instance, yes.
Yeah, the mini thing where you have to protect it from getting light. If you manage to not get a single bit of light into the crystals, you actually get a buff for the rest of the fight.
Ah, right, that's right, yeah.
And then the music drops.
Yes.
So, Return to Oblivion, look it up. But then she does Light Rampart.
Yes.
So, this version is different depending on if it's normal, savage, or ultimate. Regardless, it involves soaking towers and dodging blast attacks.
Yes.
And then after a little while, she does the encapsulate everyone in ice.
Gaia drops out to go ahead and free us from that.
And to which she says, "Power of darkness, answer my call. The light won't... She can't handle the light anymore. Let me stop her." And she uses her time powers to basically try to stop the flood of light from happening, which gives us time to stop her, basically.
Yeah, to fit it, DPS check at the very end.
Yeah, which you can do a limit break. It's not really much of a DPS check, but it's just thematic. God, I love this fight.
It is really good, and it ends with Reen being saved by Gaia this time. And she wakes up and is like, "So can we go for coffee biscuits after all?"
And she's like, "If they're not anything but perfection, I'm going to smack you."
And so they managed to find a bit of never melt ice from the Shiva experiment, and Reen wants to keep it as a memento.
Yes, she makes they say it will make a nice necklace. Oh boy.
Yep.
But yeah, that pretty much brings the end of that to an end. And I don't know why I said that, but regardless, we go out into the empty and there's actual life now. There is green grass everywhere. There is a chance to heal this barren world.
Right. It's only a small patch of the empty as it's considered vast, but it's at least promising.
I mean, it's 90% of the planet is basically a barren wasteland.
Right. So it will take some time, but at least this is proof of concept.
Yes.
And so this ends the second wing, and basically there's a cutscene that occurs after this point that basically says, okay, this coincides with 5.2. Thancred and Urianger J are going to get ready to leave.
Yes.
They're going to detransition out of this side quest. And so it's going to be just Gaia and Reen from here on in.
Yep, it's the Reen and Gaia show from now on. And you can feel the tension between them.
Yes, the Yuri tones are very blatant.
Oh, yes. This is the gay raid. This is the gay raid. No questions asked.
Yep.
Regardless, after the events of 5.3, there is now patch 5.4, Futures Rewritten. Because I remember this because the ultimate for this thing is called Futures Rewritten Ultimate.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless, we join up with Reen and Gaia, who have gotten to be much better friends now.
They actually did go out for those coffee biscuits, and they were at least decent enough that they could tolerate having one.
But they split it between each other, but they said, why not have another?
And then they split that one.
Yes. And then Gaia's like, well, why don't we just each have one each?
Yeah, but what's the fun in that?
God, they're so gay. I love it.
It's the only way you can spell Eden without by using LGBT.
Yeah, pretty much. Regardless, as we're going out into the empty, Gaia seems a little forgetful or empty-headed because Reen is talking about a festival about to happen in the Crystarium, and Gaia's not really cognizant of it.
Right. She seems distracted by something. Maybe it's the fairy.
Yeah. Regardless, we come to the empty and find out that looks like light has kind of shifted back in and the grass and plants are starting to die back.
Right.
To which Gaia gets interacted with the fairy again and says, bring darkness back to the land.
And it begins to, we basically theorize, yeah, there's still a lot of light ether, but technically the darkness should still be here too, shouldn't it?
Yes, we just need to bring it out. So Reen will suppress the darkness, suppress the light, while Gaia draws out the darkness.
And we just need to go ahead and have something material in order to focus on his dark aspects.
To which we are brought back to the idea of the Crystal Tower.
And the Cloud of Darkness.
Yep, pretty much. I believe this is where the Crystal Tower raids became mandatory.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless, we have to fight against basically the Dissidia version of the Cloud of Darkness. Because I think that's the model that they use in Dissidia.
Yes, I agree with you, because I remember it's much more Harlequin than what the Crystal Tower, which is much closer to the Final Fantasy III version.
Yes. But yeah, we basically have to fight her, and she is a rough fight. Lasers, plant vines, and more lasers.
Yeah, not too bad though. I think this is probably one of my more preferred fights in the Third Wing, in all honesty.
She will fuck you up, because she will go to one side of the arena, and you have to go to corners, because she's about to do a wide laser blast.
Right.
And there's also plants that will tether to you. You gotta pull the tether away and break it. Don't stand in the frickin' plants like I saw some people in our raid do.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a fun fight. They include a lot of these aspects in the chaotic fight that they introduced in Dawn Trail. Because it's a fusion of both the big green Cloud of Darkness and summoning ads that are the Eden version of the Cloud of Darkness.
That sounds wild.
And you gotta separate the three alliances, so part of the alliance is in the oh yeah, there's also the dropping platforms.
Yes.
That's also a thing about this fight. The dropping platforms.
Yes.
That's also a thing in the chaos.
Right, I do remember that. Yes, that is a thing. But no, I thought this one was pretty fine. It's at this point that we start to realize things are not quite right.
Basically, by unleashing darkness, we've basically done all the elements at this point, because even while fighting Reen, we also kind of did light as well.
Right.
And so doing this basically freed an Ascian from inside of Eden.
Logrif.
No, it's not Logrif.
Or
Metron.
Sorry, yes. Metron awakens from inside Eden and basically explains that he was trapped in there after his unfortunate confrontation with the Warriors of Light.
Bingo. And so he's basically really eyeing Gaia.
Because he is the one who was actually the fairy this entire time.
He's the fairy this entire time.
And he was stuck inside Eden without anything to do but call out for help.
He was calling out to help, specifically to the person that he knew would answer the call. Logrif, the other Ascian. But basically, in order to refresh her memory of the events of the past, he has us fight the Shadowkeeper itself by hijacking Eden away from Reen.
Right.
So he summons a variation of the Shadowkeeper, basically Silva, and has us fight that to try to reawaken Gaia's memories. And that is Eden's Promise Litany.
Which actually appears as a mount in the Mug Station.
Yes, is one of my favorite mounts. But yeah, that fight was a bit rough for you the first time.
Well, it was rough because of the shadow mechanic. So basically, the way that you explained it to me did not help the way that I interpret it. So what you're supposed to do is that it basically projects a shadow out, which portrays the origin of the attack that it's going to do. Yeah,
it's basically showing that there's a shadow behind it, indicates the direction of the attack.
But the attack can also be directed. It does something similar to like what's it called?
Shadow clones?
No. Something similar to Omega, the Omega weapon.
Oh, Larboard.
In which it does Larboard and Starboard designated attacks from the shadow.
Yeah.
So
the shadow point basically shows the direction that the boss is actually facing.
And then you have to account for Larboard, Starboard.
Yes.
And then it layers these.
Yes. It will do one and then the other. You just need to see which one is done first and which one is coming second.
Right. But the problem is that when you are not DPS or tank, in which floor position is your priority, that tends to be something, and that caught me off guard in part because I was playing healer.
Yeah,
I do note that my floor positioning tends to be a bit poor because I am trying to keep everyone's health topped off.
Yeah, I don't blame you. That fight is a bit hard.
Yeah, and I remember demanding we redo that one just so that I could try and eventually understand how that was supposed to work out.
And you did, and I believe because you did it again, you understood it a lot better.
Yeah.
And so it became... So, see, this is what we were talking about.
Right.
Doing the fight at first, you're like, what was I doing wrong? And then you fight again, and you're like, oh, that's what it was.
If I can quote Jackie Chan on this one, you give bad direction. To which Owen Wilson, you would respond, no, I gave you wrong direction.
Yes.
So anyway, but that was more the issue, and the fact that I tend not to look at my feet more when I play healer. But it's still an interesting fight nonetheless, considering you basically get brought back in time for that fight.
Yes, you get to see what Arbert had to face, and yeah, it's a pretty good fight. Mm-hmm. It's basically a giant wolf that turns into a Dark Knight.
Yep.
What is there not to fucking love?
Yep, Berserk reference complete.
Yep. Regardless, after that, Gaia starts to remember something, and
Logres, Mitron says, "Oh, we can't have that." Snap makes her forget.
Makes her forget her interactions with Reen and everyone else, and the sigil of Logriff appears on her face, to which Mitron says, "Yes, yes, yes, now we must become one."
And this is where I start to get thoroughly creeped out, like, okay, we are going into very stalker territory here with this.
Oh yeah, it is very stalker-coded, I won't blame you.
Yeah, so we get an echo memory of Logriff and Mitron post getting their butts kicked by Ardbert, in which they are...
No, it's pre.
Oh, this is after the Calamity.
This is after the Calamity. This is when they were...
Okay, this is after Final Days.
This is after Final Days.
Okay, so we see an echo of them reuniting after Final Days, in which they basically... Mitron has very much a stalker obsession-ish thing with Logriff, who is... somewhat distant, but also somewhat appreciative of their efforts.
I'm thinking the thing is they were either lovers or very close to one another before the Final Days.
Right.
And so Mitron tried to reach out to Gaia to try to help her remember the way she used to be.
Right.
And at first she's like, thank you for doing that. She's a little standoffish, but she does appreciate the effort to help her get back to how she used to be.
Right.
It shows that they did care for one another.
Right. That part about Mitron's understanding was genuine.
He did care about Logriff.
The problem that basically gets explained a little bit in further detail after this point, but basically Mitron basically forcibly fuses with Logriff as Gaia's being awakened to her Ascian self.
Yes.
And thus it basically ascends as an Ascian.
Yeah, becomes an Ascian Prime, like we saw back in Heaven's Ward, and he basically is controlling her and trying to say, we will create a perfect world together. And because he's saying, fuck the other Ascians, fuck Emet-Selch, fuck Elidibus, this is me and Logriff time.
Right.
So we will use Eden and create a perfect paradise. To which Rei'tan tries to fight back and says, no you won't. I will save Gaia because she is her own person. She is not this Logriff that you care about anymore. To which he says, let's bring back your trauma.
Let's see how you like it. And so that brings us into Eden's verse Anamorphosis. Anamorphosis, which basically brings out a primal based off of all of Reen's trauma.
It is basically Ranjit, Thancred, and the Sin Eaters all being taken place inside the Yulmore jail.
Yep.
This is trauma the fight. Daddy issues the fight.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's a fun fight. Although we had the worst run. Well, not the worst run. We had a chaotic run of it.
Yeah, no, that was absolute madness. It was down to you, me, and one DPS at one point.
I believe so.
It was going to be a failed fight. It was going to be a wipe if somehow we managed not only to not just survive, but managed to bring back everyone bit by bit. Like, goddamn.
That one was a crazy fight. Basically, the gimmick is he will either channel lightning, fire, or light. Fire is a knockback. Lightning is a expanding AoE, and light will cause puddles to appear.
Right.
And then he will either he will target one person, and he will activate one of those things where you either need to stack or spread away from him as he attacks that person. He will then create a shroud of mist, and you have to run around the side of the arena until you see a faint image of one of them and just stop right there.
Because he's going to do a charge attack in multiple directions with clones.
Yes. Which is a pretty cool gimmick, I won't lie.
Yeah, no, it's an absolute cluster of a fight. It's probably our most chaotic and probably one of the favorites from that entire encounter.
Yeah, because you got to really show off your healing skills.
Yeah, I think I got 3 or 4 commendations out of that one.
And I got none. I think I got 1.
Yeah, you got 1 out of that one, but that was an absolute wild experience. It is also the opening fight in the ultimate version of this, but
we'll talk about that after we finish everything.
Right.
Here.
So we overcome the trauma with Reen and managed to go ahead and survive that, to which the ascended Ascian, or the Ascian Prime, basically explains why he is so obsessed about getting Logriff to remember.
Yeah.
And that's because he is, not only is it the fact that he was stuck in Eden without anything to do that, Logriff got to be reincarnated as Gaia.
Yeah. He got stuck in there. So
he that's the part of the reason why Gaia doesn't remember anything, is because this is actually a genuinely different person. Metron cannot move past that because he is still an Ascian.
Yeah. Basically, the crystals that we had found in 5.3 were the crystals used to impart the memories of the old convocation onto new people. Mm-hmm. That's how Logriff and Metron got to be, because even though Logriff's memory was still a little hazy at that point, she still got her memories as an Ascian. Metron can't do that at the moment, so he's basically trying to impart his memories of Gaia onto her by removing all her memories that she made as Gaia.
Again, all the stalker coding just absolutely comes in here thick.
Yeah, so basically, he can't do what the other Ascians did in the past.
And even then, it kind of also hints that would have failed anyway. And again, trying to tell someone about yourself through your own memories. Kind of a self-sufficient bias there, so...
Yeah, so it's not really going to work. And so he tries to expunge all her memories, transforming them into crystal and shattering them.
Which leads us to...
the final raid.
Right, which leads us to the final confrontation.
Eden's Promise, Eternity.
Yeah, this fight is absolutely nuts.
Yeah, so basically, it's Final Fantasy VIII's junction abilities. The fight. You fight against a giant tree with multiple tits. A la Inanna from Shin Megami Tensei 5.
Exactly. At the halfway point, it's Pandora, isn't it? Isn't that the boss's name?
No. That's the Ultimates.
Okay.
No, it's just called Eden's Promise.
Eden's Promise. Okay, so at the midway point, Eden's Promise shifts to destroying Gaia's memories, which you have to protect from ads, and then you basically jump platforms, trying to protect each of the memories before Eden's Promise just goes and destroys them anyway.
Yeah.
And as you're defending the crystals, they're basically playing out the little memories of what happened in between Reen and Gaia, going for coffee biscuits, making the crystal, even shopping for makeup at one point.
Yeah.
And then, as the memories are getting erased by Eden's Promise, Gaia herself is like, what was I doing?
Yeah.
And you get to see all that trauma, and you have to basically do the fights perfectly, otherwise you will end up failing out by having all of Gaia's memories erased. But if you succeed, you can continue the fight.
Yes, and the fight basically is there's going to be all the primals that you fought shown up as pictures on one side.
The elemental primals, not the darkness ones.
Yeah, it's just going to be Titan, Garuda, Ifrit, Shiva, and Leviathan. And basically each one does their own attack, and they're going to stockpile and tether to each of them and unleash attacks either immediately or after they've stockpiled them. And each one has their own different mechanic. Like I believe Leviathan is like 2 waves on each side. Ifrit is a fan where you have only 2 small corners. Ramu is I forget. Regardless, this is how it works. The main thing is that she will either junction to Titan or Shiva for a huge AoE thing, and we got wiped by Titan's junction.
Yeah, Titan's junction was nuts.
Because we didn't realize that there was a stone in the middle
yes.
that exploded.
Yeah, so and I think that's what it is. Titan's is a stone in the middle. Garuda's is a cross. And so
Ramu's is just the big AoE around the boss.
Right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Shiva's turns the floor to ice. It does like the knockback and the side swipes and stuff like that. But yeah, it is a really intense fight, and I believe we wiped once to it.
Yeah, we did wipe once to it, but I think the second time we did much better and we made it through.
Yeah.
At the end of it all, though, you do manage to put Eden's Promise down.
Yes. And so Gaia is left comatose outside of Eden, and inside her mind, she sees the last lingering remnants of Metron, who regrets his actions slightly, and then Gaia says, maybe in another life, I'll be the one to find you instead of you be the one to find me. But for this life, I will live my own life. Mm-hmm. And so she says goodbye to Artemis, the real name of Metron.
Right.
Just like Gaia is actually Logrif's real name. Because Gaia had a name before that when she lived in Yulmore, but basically, every member of the Convocation is actually a Greek or Roman god.
Right.
Yeah. Which is kind of cool.
Nonetheless, Gaia's still stuck in the darkness, but we managed to see that she's still holding on to the ice crystal from before. And so
Rei'tan basically uses it as a means of trying to contact her.
And pulls her out of the darkness into Rainbow Beauty.
Rainbow Beauty, as all of a sudden Eden erupts into full life with a giant rainbow crystal waving its pride flag in the background.
Yep, and that is how the Eden Raid series completes.
Yep, basically, they get together, basically. They're basically roommates.
No, you have to say it in the exact tone every time we make that joke.
They were roommates.
And they were roommates.
But yeah, it ends that way. It ends beautiful and lush and wonderful. And it's kind of amazing.
It's a very sappy love story, but honestly, after, again, all the trauma that went through with Shadowbringers, it's very much needed.
Yeah, it's a very lovely raid series. It does have some teeth, but I enjoyed it.
I think it's a good challenge. I think I think in terms of some of the... I don't think it's unduly fair. I think it's very fair in its gimmicks. I think that in comparison to something like Warring Triad or even
Omega,
it's pretty fair.
Yeah.
Just in terms of how you confront it. Obviously, I think by this point they sort of understood what they wanted to do with the raid series like these.
Oh yeah, they had a blueprint at this point. Mm-hmm. And so it kind of uses everything from Shadowbringers is kind of a blueprint for Endwalker and Dawntrail going forward.
Okay, so you think that this is the point at which they perfected the formula?
Oh yeah, this is definitely when they made, this is where the linearized dungeons come in. This is where the structure of the trials and not the trials, but the raid series has been perfected, as also the alliance raids. Okay. I believe.
Yeah. And I guess sort of just going over all of the characters overall, this was really very nicely done story work. Rei'tan, you kind of see the end of her growth in growing again more distant away from Thancred and Urianger, becoming more self-sufficient.
Yeah, because the whole time Urianger and Thancred were basically Rei'tan's dads.
They were dad hovering over the situation with her and Gaia.
Yeah, and even Thancred said when Gaia went to help Rei'tan after the Shiva incident, Urianger called him a doting mother bird.
Yep.
To which he replied, "Father bird, if you prefer."
Yep.
But yeah.
Other than that, There is actually, yeah, there is one more thing to talk about, which is the ultimate version.
Oh yeah, the Future's Rewritten Ultimate, or as it's colloquially termed, Fru.
So the way Fru starts is it basically it starts off with the Shiva raid as before, except this time Metron decides to make his move early.
He makes his move early and possesses Reen as she's transforming into Shiva.
Meaning that Metron is now in control in this point,
Yes.
and is going ahead and causing chaos to Amok, which also causes him to want to add a little spice.
He starts off by summoning the Fate Breaker from before, the trauma, to basically have everyone attack. You deal with the Fate Breaker, Shiva pops in and does her thing, her normal, and then she does the whole ice thing, and then
Gaia comes in to intervene once again.
But then instead of Reen being saved, she attacks Gaia and awakens her memories as Logriff, the Oracle of Darkness, which is a fight you can get if you do the ultimate version of Eternity. Not the ultimate, the Savage version.
Okay.
But yeah, you then have to fight the Oracle of Darkness and her ability Ultimate Relativity, or as I call it, Stopwatch Chaos.
Oh, joy.
Stoplight chaos, I mean, because she summons a whole bunch of stoplights, and they're timed everything. There's stacks upon puddles and AoE effects.
And so you're fighting the Oracle of Darkness, and then Shiva, and then the Oracle of Darkness.
You fight Shiva, then the Oracle of Darkness. Then Shiva shows up again and uses her Savage version ability, which is using Rei'tan as a conduit for her power.
Oh, wow.
Because, yeah, in the Savage version of Refulgence, she summons a version of Rei'tan, and the two merge. And it's not even a door boss or anything. It's just in the middle of the fight, she basically turns into...
Gets a new form. And then on top of that, after you clear those,
the two of them fuse. I am yours, you are mine. The two of them fuse into what is colloquially termed as Pandora, the fusion of Reen and Gaia.
Yep.
And you can even see the necklaces on her.
And now it even gets more stack heavy.
Yep. It gets more stack heavy. It is wild. There are cuts everywhere. It is an amazing looking ultimate, if I'm perfectly honest.
It's absolutely nonsense.
Yeah, it is kind of utterly nonsense, but I love it. It's basically the last half of the raids coalesced into one. A lot of people were kind of disappointed it didn't involve the primals at all.
Why would it? That's not who's the star here.
I know, that's what I'm thinking. Like, it is Future's Rewritten Ultimate. It is talking about the last wing of the Eden raids. So it's going to use Shiva. It's going to use Oracle of Darkness. It's going to use Fate Breaker. So yeah, it is. Yeah.
I think they were just shipping the wrong couple, but I digress.
Fair enough.
But yeah, so at least seeing that definitely seems like it has a lot of potential. I forget, was there a similar ultimate in Stormblood? Because this is basically akin to the Futures Rewritten for Dragon Song.
Okay, so the ultimates that came out in Stormblood were the Unending Coils of Bahamut and Ultimate Weapon Ultimate.
Okay.
Then, I believe, after that, we got, in Shadowbringers, we then got the Epic of Alexander. Then COVID happened, and we had to wait a little bit. Endwalker happened, and we got Dragon Song.
Okay.
And then we got the Omega Protocol in that expansion.
Okay.
And by the way, I believe Top is considered to be the hardest of the ultimates, because it is just a mess. But yeah, that's everything that we had on our list to talk about. So, all in all, what do you think of this section?
Honestly, yeah, considering this is how much it took to clear Shadowbringers, it deserves the praise. This is on par with how I felt Heaven's Ward ended. Sort of the same thing of it didn't really end until after Patch Quest.
Right.
I think that so unlike Heaven's Ward, where I said the Patch Quest was much better than how
it ended
5.0,
The 3.0.
Or how 3.3 ended better than 3.0, and I said the reverse for Stormblood, where I said the original expansion end was better than the patch ending. This one is going to break both of them, and it's going to be on par.
Really?
Seed of Sacrifice is just as good as the Hades fights.
Wow. I'm actually impressed.
I think that it holds in. They
stuck the landing.
They stuck the landing, and I think it has to do with they had the main story, which involved obviously the fight with Emet-Selch, and then they had the second emotional fight, which was the resolving of the conflict with the Crystallex Ancestra Hatia.
Yeah,
and I think that intersection kept emotional weight on both ends. Between the patch content and the expansion content,
right? And
so I think having both of those, having enough room for both of those plots and executing them both flawlessly, I think is what it made the difference. For me, on Heavensward, knowing we still had to deal with ye old dragon rising through the heavens, made anything dealing with Thordane moot to me. And then. For me, with Stormblood, just the cheesy
operatic ending.
The cheesy operatic ending with, basically, it's the New Hope ending.
Yeah.
Like in Star Wars, where it basically ends with the medal ceremony. Basically, that happening as the ending for the expansion, it was too fucking hilarious for me not to really... And honestly, like we said, the patch content for Stormblood is all politics shtick.
Yeah.
And while I personally enjoyed it, I know that's not going to be fucking raising the flag at the end of the ceremony over the tower.
Which is funny because a lot of people think that Stormblood base was kind of mid, and they thought it was better by the end of 4.3.
No, you guys are just deluding yourselves because you're mad that you can't have something simple and wholesome. That's what that is, you traumatized nuggets. You guys are basically... Remember... Everything after this point came from after Dark Souls, and so if it's not dark, brooding, and edging, of course you're going to say that it lacks depth of character. Sometimes you can have a happy ending. You don't need to traumatize us through it. That being said, it does make it all the more appreciative at the end.
Yes.
So I do think that at least, as much as I thought, like, my fear was that Shadowbringers was overhyped, it's appropriately hyped. It is appropriately hyped given the depth of story.
Yes.
And so
now here comes the big thing. People are often torn between Shadowbringers and Endwalker on which one has the better ending.
So,
and I'm talking about the end of 6.0.
Okay.
Because after that, it's basically a new story.
The only thing I will say about that is all I know is that Answers plays at 6.0. That is all I know. Is that they basically bring that song back.
They kind of do. Oh yeah, they do. Oh yes, they do.
See, that is so. All I know is that if you're doing that kind of a callback and you're saying it's on par or better than Shadowbringers, we will have to see where we go with that. And to that end, since the next time we talk about this, we'll be going into Endwalker.
Yeah, we're going into Endwalker setup. So the next episode is going to be a little bit lighter. It's going to be shorter. It's going to be patches 5.4, 5.5, and the near raids.
I was going to say, just cut me off if I've said this before. If I start talking about something I've said before. Based on what Emet-Selch said at the end of 5.0, implies that Zodiark is when basically the Ascians sought Zodiark's aid. Zodiark is the first primal.
I'm not going to say anything.
I know, and I'm just trying to say that. Stop me if I've said if I've said this on the recording before.
I don't think you've said this.
Okay, I know I've said it to you before. I just wanted to make sure whether or not we said it on recording before.
So I'm going to clear this up for you. The expansions are split into 3 trials and several level dungeons and 3 trials in the base MSQ.
Right.
You're saying Zodiark is going to be the first trial?
No. What I'm saying is that what I understand of how everything that Emet-Selch said, Zodiark is basically a primal.
Yes.
And when he was summoned, people summoned Hydaelyn in response.
Yes, both of them are primals.
And so,
what is it we do?
What did we just kill?
We just killed the heart of Zodiark, but I don't think Zodiark's gone.
Well, that's yet to be determined, but here's ultimately where it boils down to. We're going to get rid of Zodiark at some point.
Yep.
And we can't have Light running around, can we?
I'm not saying anything.
All I'm saying is I think we're about to go Shin Megami Tensei on this game.
Maybe, but that'll be for...
we got a couple of expansions to go through for that, but...
Well, we've got technically just one more episode, and then we can talk about it in the next one.
Alright.
Because, 5.4, 5.5, and the Near Raids are the next episode. It's going to be quick and dirty, pretty much.
Yeah, we'll see about that. So, for now, this has been Leo Force.
And this has been Rei, signing out. Later, guys, and have a good day.